We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that.
When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Friday's Sun gets us going, Steve, and it has single really gotten being single this bad? I mean, this is scary.
Plumbing the new depths. Lucy Letby fans plan sick speed dating event to celebrate medical experts finding no evidence of murder. Twisted supporters of the baby murder, it says here in The Sun, are celebrating after medical experts said, even though they're not directly involved with the case, that there's no evidence of these crimes. It is the worst idea ever to be done. Imagine you're sitting around thinking, OK, you think she's not guilty, some news comes in your favour, let's come up with ideas, what we're going to do. If speed dating is your go-to suggest, like Crazy Golf was already got soft play, I suppose that would be bad. But the idea that you'd think, I know, let's do some speed dating. What will come of this? Who's going to say to their grandkids, like, oh, and they go, how did you meet? Well, some babies died, and that's not the story you want to pass on.
Are you going to ask each other in your 2 minutes? Who's your favourite?
I'm hugely in favour of this because it gets people out of the dating pool. You don't want in there. Yeah, get together and get out. It's horrific.
Yeah, but we need to talk about Kevin is what they're going to be creating.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. They also threw her a birthday party before this group of... I mean, look, I don't know if Lucy Letby did it or not. I don't think anybody... I think
a judge,
the people who are the experts know.
A jury says she did.
She is guilty. But the idea that these people having a crazy night in Clapham know better is just so ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a bit where on the Facebook post, the person arranging it says, if any singles or married people, I won't judge. Yeah, not judging might be the problem here.
Yeah. A watched egg never boils has been found out to not be true, Steve, in The Guardian.
Scientists crack what they say is the perfect way to boil an egg. I'll cut to the chase because The Guardian don't. Sweet mercy, you have to read all of this.
Yeah.
But it's having a bowl at 100 degrees Celsius, one at 30 Celsius, dipping between each one every 2 minutes for 32 minutes. No! 32 minutes?
You haven't even tried it.
That's
Why
right.
are you being so dismissive?
Because I can get it done in like 3 to 4 minutes. Boom.
Yeah, but not as delicious. That's the point, Chris. If it's worth doing well.
No, I don't agree. I'm with Steve on this one. I've got one of those brilliant little egg timer things where the steam is all just in the thing. You don't have to engage with a pan. That's the right way to cook it.
Yeah.
OK, Cresta, The Times solves why hippies are so thick.
Air pollution from candles impairs brain function, study suggests. The person that did this study loves candles. Candle flames release PM 2.5 particulate matter, which lowers cognitive ability. So if you've got a room full of kids and you're having a birthday party and you're letting them breathe that stuff in, it's really...
What happens if you have a Lucy Letby birthday party?
That's speed dating. I've actually, I agree with this because I've got one of those Gwyneth Paltrow candles, and whenever I light it, I just want to get my Lego out and just... I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why it makes me...
Yeah, this is... It's interesting that they sort of focus on, like, birthday parties, and they're like, whatever you do, don't get together on a birthday party, and what do they want us to do?
I feel
artificial...
like this is a secret kind of... Get worried about pollution in general, guys. The world's a difficult place.
I guess so. The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at tomorrow's front pages. The Daily Mail, new era of stagflation thanks to Reeves' ruinous budget. Telegraph, bloated state is harming economy. The Guardian, fears over stagflation as Reeves' growth plan suffers double blow. Metro, hospitals in crisis over winter vomiting bug. The Sun, my Liam dreamed of 1D reunion, 1D ID, yeah. Star Boffins, lazy gits live longer. That is it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Steve and Cresta. Cresta this evening, of course, coming up with a famous new saying, prehabilitation. Leo Kurtz will be hosting over the weekend, and he's joined by Nick Dixon and Lewis Schaefer. I wish him well. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We're going to see the skies remaining clear towards the northwest during the next 24 hours with some frost and fog overnight, but increasingly cloudy elsewhere as high pressure begins to migrate towards Scandinavia, and that's going to establish an easterly wind coming in from the near continent. Not one of the colder easterlies we've experienced in recent years, but chilly nonetheless, and it will bring an increase in cloud across much of England and Wales, particularly towards the southeast, where there'll be some showers moving through overnight. In the northwest, though, staying clearer with frost and fog to wake up to. And it's going to be cold everywhere, whether you've got the clear spells to the north or the cloud and that easterly wind in the south. Feeling raw under the grey skies and showery rain or sleet through London and the home counties first thing. Some brightness for West Wales, the southwest of England, northwest England as well. A frost in places, but it's Northern Ireland, central and western Scotland where we'll see the sunniest skies during Friday morning. A bit more cloud there for the east of Scotland. Otherwise, cloud-free skies for the north and west of Scotland, always a favoured spot when winds are arriving from the east, and that's going to remain the case throughout the next few days. An unfavoured spot, if you're not a fan of grey skies and sleety rain, will be East Anglia, the south and southeast, where the rain, sleet and some hill snow will become more prevalent later in the day. 5 or 6 Celsius, feeling even colder when you add on the effect of that wind coming in from the North Sea. And as we start off Saturday, wouldn't be surprised if there'll be a little bit of a covering of snow over the Welsh mountains, the moors of the southwest, the Chilterns perhaps. Not much at lower levels at all. It's a mixture of rain, sleet and snow moving across England, Wales into eastern Scotland. A lot of cloud cover, and it's going to stay cold throughout the weekend and into next week as well as we keep those east to southeasterlies.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Crisis for the Chancellor of the Exchequer as her plans for growth are dealt a major blow.
And Britain faces a new era of inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation as economic alarm bells begin to ring.
The Bank of England is painting a stark picture as it cuts the growth forecast in half, warning of bumpy times ahead.
We live in an uncertain world and the road ahead will have bumps on it.
That's as Red Wall Labour MP Jo White warns the government is ignoring the North as she issues this challenge to the Chancellor.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North.
A very big poll shock. Could we face a three-way election tie? New polling reveals which cabinet ministers are most at risk of losing their seats as Reform UK continues to surge in the polls.
And peace by Easter, a leaked report has revealed President Trump's 100-day plan to end the war in Ukraine. But will he be able to achieve it?
A Roman holiday for the King and Queen. The palace confirms new details for the upcoming state visit to Italy, with a trip to the Vatican and a meeting with the Pope confirmed.
And TV chef accused Gino D'Acampo faces allegations of intimidating and inappropriate behaviour, claims he denies.
Determination to push our country forward. We were a leader in nuclear. I'm determined we're going to be a leader again, and today is a huge step forward.
Back to nuclear. As the Prime Minister unveils plans for more nuclear power stations, we'll be debating whether that energy is the right way to go.
And in the sport this morning, OK, here we go. Liverpool sweep Tottenham Hotspur aside. You don't know how difficult this is for me to say. As they cruise into the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle next month. There you go, wasn't so bad. FA Cup fourth round weekend starts with Ruud van Nistelrooy's return to Old Trafford tonight. In the Premier League of darts, return in Belfast last night. Luke Littler wasn't late, but he did lose.
A duller day for many today and feeling a lot colder in the south thanks to a brisk wind. One or two places, though, will still have some sunshine. Join me later to find out where.
It has just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Michael Portillo.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast. Well, this is lovely, isn't it? Good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the week, and that is an achievement these days. And what a thrill it is to be here with Michael Portillo. And we tried to coordinate. Do you think we've done all right? You know, here's the hardest bloke to coordinate with. I mean, you wake up and you think, what is Michael Portillo going to be wearing?
I decided at the last minute, and I'm so sorry we didn't coordinate, but I think we've done all right.
OK.
It looks like Liverpool colours. That's why I'm not so happy about the whole thing.
OK, see, it wasn't personal.
Oh, was it not? OK.
How are you this morning?
I'm OK.
Are you?
You had a tough evening.
Michael, it was tough.
Did you watch it through to the end?
You know what I did? And the thing is, there's this like masochistic thing where I end up then having to watch the summary afterwards and then watch the replays, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
It's been described as, what, an annihilation,
yes,
a debagging.
Okay. All right, don't rub it in already.
Not
OK, I see what you're doing.
Rubbing it in, yeah. But, I mean, just in case anyone is slightly confused what Quest is talking about, he's not talking about his personal life. He's obviously talking...
Oh, no, I'm talking about that as well. Yeah.
Hello, Mrs. Quest. But he's also talking about Spurs, who didn't have a good night with Liverpool last night, didn't they?
4-0.
It's 4, evidently. 4, yeah.
So, really, although it's my job to talk about Do you mind if we just don't talk about it? Would that be wrong? We do have to talk about it.
I think viewers have got the score. They've got the general feeling of the result.
Was it 4?
4, I think.
4, was it?
And I think nil, wasn't it?
Gosh, yeah.
Nil.
That's interesting.
I tell you, I'm not being funny, but Spurs were lucky to get nil. That's how bad things were.
Can you get -1? I'm a West Ham fan. I mean, I really shouldn't be chucking stones around, should I? I mean,
that's okay. That's fine.
But we could talk about eggs instead. We could change the mood and talk about eggs. How do you like your egg?
And the reason we'd be talking about eggs is...
Well, because experts have come up with the perfect egg, right? If you're having your breakfast this morning at 4 minutes past 6, it's quite early. But evidently, experts use 2 pans and say the ideal way to boil your egg is to do it for 32 minutes.
Who has 32 minutes in the morning to boil an egg?
It's a long time, isn't it? It's 32 minutes.
You'd think it'd be quite well done by then, wouldn't you?
I think so. Wouldn't it just be, like, rock hard? Yeah. And does anybody actually do dippy egg and soldiers these days?
I think it's 2 pans, must be different temperatures, backwards and forwards.
Yeah, you do it for a bit, then you let it cool down, and then you put it in cold water. And
I think for crying out loud is right.
Yeah.
You'd be happy with my scrambled eggs, wouldn't you?
I would be, absolutely, yeah.
My scrambled eggs are pretty good, actually.
You know what? Because when I've had scrambled eggs and go into a restaurant or had proper breakfast, they're very nice. I can't do it that... What do you do? With a little milk? Just whip it up? Yeah, butter in the pan? What do you do then, Mike?
Yeah, butter in the bottom of the pan, mix some milk in with the eggs, and stir like crazy. They always come out, for me, they just come out...
Not too runny, though. I think
No, but not too dry either.
Right.
In fact, one tip is you put a raw egg in just at the last minute.
Oh, really?
Just to achieve that little bit of...
je ne sais quoi.
Well, a little bit of moisture at the end, yeah.
Right, OK, very nice.
You know what? I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, because I've got a confession to make.
Scrambled eggs.
I've got a confession to make. I've never cooked an egg.
That is quite a confession.
Really? You were going to say
you've got an allergy or something, haven't you?
I just don't like eggs.
OK.
But it's fascinating that you can talk so long about them. But, Quitey, I would have thought your ideal for an egg would be 4 minutes.
There's nothing to be said to that.
It's really nice to have you both here today, anyway.
Excellent. Should we move on? Should we talk about some serious stuff?
OK, what? Do you want to talk about the Chancellor?
Oh, God, do we have to?
Yeah, I think
Someone
so.
has to. OK.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, her plans have been dealt a major blow this week after a disastrous forecast from the Bank of England yesterday.
Britain now faces a new era of, brace yourself, folks, rising inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation, with the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, warning Britain's bloated public sector is dragging down the economy.
I think it's fair to say that we have seen an increase in public sector employment. We haven't seen a commensurate increase in measured public sector output.
It comes after the Bank of England slashed its forecast for growth in 2025 in half to just 0.75 of a percentage point, with fears that the cost of living pressures are on the rise again, with inflation set to climb to 3.7% this year.
The bank said growth had been weaker than expected and raises questions over whether the Chancellor, that's Rachel Reeves, if you're not sure, is representing everyone in Britain.
GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, sat down with the Labour MP for Bassett Law, Joe White, to discuss the angered reaction from Red Wall MPs.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North, telling our story, because by telling a story, you're actually attracting inward investment and you're attracting new businesses. So come to the North, please, Rachel. You are Leeds MP.
Correct.
Tell our story, and we have a good one, and where we want to invest and where we want to get the new skills. And I'll be clapping loudly from the sidelines.
And we are joined now by a sketch writer and columnist at the Daily Telegraph, Madeline Grant. Madeline, lovely to see you this morning.
Good morning. Lovely to see you too.
Well, how grave do you think this is for the Chancellor? Bad news almost every day.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really is. One thing that strikes me is the fact that, you know, we did have, I think, quite a no-holds-barred damning indictment of her platform from the Bank of England, who is usually quite measured in his remarks, but it's very hard not to read that as a as I say, a real indictment. But at the same time, the narrative around the budget was, this is going to hurt. It's going to be really, really painful. But we need to do this to stabilise the economy. And then after that, things will improve. But if they get, worse and worse, which every single kind of major indicator suggests they are, this paves the way potentially for further tax increases and further pain down the line. So it's really hard to craft any sort of government narrative around these figures, frankly.
I mean, she has insisted that there are no more tax rises to come. Not going to happen, OK? No. Whether you believe them or not is another matter.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to do something, because we're not in recession yet. But the way things are going, we do appear to be heading that way.
Absolutely. And one of the major criticisms has also from the opposition parties has been that, that they were awarding generous pay rises in the public sector without any corresponding reform. And this was another thing that the Governor of the Bank of England complains about, the fact that productivity hasn't improved at all, despite the fact that we have more workers in the public sector. Also, actually, complains about the levels of immigration we've seen, because it says there's all these new people in the country and yet productivity remains the same. These may be two areas where the Chancellor will have to rethink her process, because as things currently stand, it's getting worse and worse. And frankly, it's not very normal for a Prime Minister to have to go on the record and say that he will not sack his Chancellor before the end of his term in office. That was quite an extraordinary thing for Keir Starmer to have to say so soon into his time as Prime Minister.
In my mind, it's a bit like the football board saying to the manager, you have we've got full confidence in you.
Her position is unassailable.
Exactly.
I'm sure her position is unassailable.
Don't believe anything.
As positions always are.
Of course, yes, Michael.
But all of this is having an effect on the polls, and we had 2 polls out this week showing that Reform are doing astonishingly well, taking votes not just away from Conservatives, which is what we expected, but also from Labour. How much do you think the bad financial news is linked into that?
Oh, I'm massively linked into it, absolutely. I think that not only you have rising inflation across the board for everybody, but the budget very clearly takes aim at specific groups. There's pensioners over winter fuel, but you've also got sort of farming and rural communities very, very angry about that. It strikes me that there's a lot of people who've been annoyed by the budget, but apart from those workers in the public sector who continue to be supported, it's not clear to me who are the Starmerites, who are Starmer's people, who are actually pleased with how things are going.
But the poll is worst, surely, for the Conservatives.
Absolutely.
The poll we're talking about actually gives the Conservatives 18%.
Yes.
It gives them quite a large number of seats, I think 174, but 18%, compared with Reform's 29%.
Yes.
Now, I mean, this poll may not be right, but pretty consistently now, polls are putting Reform ahead of the Conservatives, sometimes a long way ahead of the Conservatives, and even ahead of Labour. In this poll, again, they're ahead of Labour. This is extraordinary for the Tories.
It's absolutely astonishing. And as you say, it's been a consistent theme of the polls for several months. It would mean that about a third of those who voted Tory at the last election, which was already an incredibly low bar, you really are dealing with the party faithful at that point, have switched to Reform now. And part of the Conservatives' arguments to voters at the last election was, these guys don't have a hope in hell of winning. So if you want to stop Keir Starmer and protect your savings or whatever, then you have to pick us. But these polls are really torpedoing that narrative out of the water completely. If it becomes the case that actually, if you want to boot Keir out, then you have to vote Reform.
If these figures are replicated and there was a general election tomorrow, the most likely government outcome will point to a Conservative Reform UK coalition. The word coalition just sends chills down my spine, because nothing gets done then, does it?
Yeah. Although I have to say,
as opposed to everything that gets done by single party.
All right, that's a very fair point.
I was going to say, the last period of vaguely competent government, or at least whether or not you agree or disagree with them, things at least vaguely worked, was under the coalition government.
Yeah, that's true.
But quite difficult for, in a way, Reform have absolutely scorched the idea of any kind of official coalition with the Tories, and they do basically spend their time slagging them off. So it'd be quite interesting to see what kind of working relationship they would have together.
I mean, it seems to me that 2 contradictory things are true. The first is that the right has to make a coalition to beat Labour.
Yes.
And the second is that it's impossible to see how the right makes a coalition to beat Labour. But that is the big question for the next 4 years, I think.
Yes, I think so. I almost wonder if it needs to happen in a kind of unofficial way. you know, without any sort of official announcements to that effect, but maybe behind the scenes there's a bit of dividing of the kingdoms going on. You know, if we go easy in Wales, maybe you'll let us have Kent, you know, this sort of thing.
Sounds very medieval, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, like King Lear sort of thing. Yeah.
I mean, it feels to me that one of the reasons why it's so hard to see this happening is that the Conservative Party isn't really one party, it's at least two. You know, there are a lot of people there who would feel very at home in the Liberal Democrats. There are a lot of people there who'd feel at home in Reform UK.
What's left of it, yeah.
And for the moment, they have a single leader who's dependent on both factions. I do not envy Kemi Badenoch.
No, definitely not.
Tricky one. God, if only we had a party that was united, because Labour are tearing themselves apart in any case.
Indeed.
Not good, is it? Not good.
So, the poll of today, of the day today, is we're asking, do you agree with the Red Wall MPs that there's a southern bias to government? We'll bring you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
I wonder how that one's going to go. For all our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll. Now, let's move on. President Trump is expected to present a long-anticipated plan to end the war in Ukraine at the Munich Security Conference next week.
However, a leaked copy of the plan has raised eyebrows in Ukraine and amongst European leaders while risking the success of the peace negotiations.
According to the leaked plan, President Trump is hoping for a ceasefire by Easter. We're joined now by Ukrainian politician Kira Rudik to explain more about going on. Kira, thank you very much for joining us. Lovely to see you this morning. Zelensky has said there isn't a plan. The leaked plan seems to be coming from America and seems very much to be a plan. Are you any clearer as to whether there is an actual plan?
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me, Dawn. So the plan originally was that the special envoy, Keith Kellogg, is coming to Kyiv, discussing the situation with Ukrainian officials, then goes back to Donald Trump, and then they come up with the plan. And from my understanding, this is still how it's supposed to be. Then there was this leaked plan, and this is not the only one. There are much more there who suppose that the plan is already there. If we are looking at it from political perspective, it all comes down to one major question. The question is who or what in the whole world can make sure that Russia will keep their part of the bargain? Because we were always saying, look, this is not the first time for us. Russia attacked us in 2014, and there was a ceasefire agreement at that point that Russia never honored. And then who would protect us? Who should be complaining about that Russia is not putting their part of the bargain and they keep attacking us at the border? So any details of the plan should come after this key major point. And from what I have leaked, no of the leaked plans have an explanation of if there is a peace deal, what would happen if Russia breaks the rules? Are the United States going to go to war with them? Is the NATO going to chime in? Are there going to be any international troops at Ukrainian border that will be protecting us? But this is the key question that needs to be answered before any kind of details are revealed, before you talk about the political side, before you talk about the military side. This is the key question. So I guess what is happening right now, we have to wait until the Munich Security Conference and hear what Donald Trump has in mind.
Kira Rudik, it's pretty clear from your tone of voice that you are concerned about what you've heard so far. And what we have heard is that Ukraine would accept that a fifth of its territory has gone to Russia, the sanctions against Russia would be lifted. Ukraine would make it clear that it was not going to join NATO, although there's the prospect of joining the European Union, that there might be some peacekeeping forces sent in, possibly from the European Union. On the face of it, from this plan, there doesn't seem to be much in it for Ukraine.
That's true. And this is why exactly I'm concerned. Look, we are a democratic state. We have done everything by the book. Moreover, in 1994, we have given up our second largest nuclear arsenal for the promise of our sovereignty and territorial integrity to the countries of like United Kingdom, United States, and Russia. And playing by the rules, this is what got us to the point where we are right now. We are ready to fight for the democracy and democratic values. The world seemed to stand behind us, and it would be so completely unfair after the enormous price that we paid to be where we are. So Ukraine will be pressured to something unfair like that. So I do hope that the leaked details have not much of the background just yet. And I'm really wishful that Donald Trump sees Ukraine as an opportunity to show the world that he is a really strong leader that is coming to resolve the matters and not just try to stop them until the next powerful leader comes.
I mean,
because what we know here, with what we know here, Russia would attack us again and again, right? There's nothing to be stopping them right now.
Ukraine has lost at least 45,000 soldiers, and if this deal is, as we are led to believe it is, at least 20% of Ukraine's territory will be held onto by Russia. It doesn't sound like a victory, but it does mean peace. It does mean no more deaths, hopefully. Are you confident in what you've heard Donald Trump say about, for example, the Gaza situation, that, your country could finally be getting peace?
Look, for us, peace would mean the assurances that Russia would not attack us again. If there are no assurances, then it would not be peace. It will be just a preparation for fighting back against their next attack. Let me ask you this, Dawn. Imagine there is a ceasefire deal. Do you think that Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran would stop manufacturing the drones, ammunition, missiles, and train their soldiers? I do not think so. They will see this ceasefire as the weakness from the West. They would look at it as another act of appeasement, and they will be getting ready, as they are right now, and helping each other. They will get ready to the next time of war. And it may not be happening in Ukraine, but it will happen. We see that, and we are telling you from our knowledge, especially that we have already seen and proven the North Korean troops in Ukraine and in Kursk region.
Kira Rudik, thank you very much for joining us this morning at this time of great anxiety for you.
Thank you, Kira. It doesn't sound great. I mean, Kira's point that she, all the way through that interview, was what happens next? Who's going to reassure us that Russia won't do this again? No one did anything in 2014, did they, Michael?
It is extraordinary to see a plan which doesn't seem to have any guarantee for Ukraine in it at all. Early stages, the announcement will be made at the Munich Security Council. Meanwhile, let's have a look at some of the other stories which are coming into the newsroom.
Yes, celebrity chef Gino D'Acampo has been accused of sexually inappropriate behaviour following an ITV News investigation. Dozens of people have come forward with allegations against him, describing his behaviour as unacceptable, distressing and horrendous.
Hannah, whose identity we're protecting, worked with Gino D'Acampo in 2011 on a photo shoot for a high-profile magazine. She told us she was shocked when he made a highly sexualized comment to her.
The TV chef, who has appeared on the lights of This Morning and Celebrity Juice, faces allegations spanning 12 years, all of which he denies.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order sanctioning the International Criminal Court. He is accusing of illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America and Israel. The measure places financial and visa restrictions on individuals and their families who assist in ICC investigations of American citizens or their allies.
The public is being invited to suggest names for the next Archbishop of Canterbury following the resignation of Justin Welby. His replacement will be the 106th appointment to the role. Candidates must be aged at least 30 and can be submitted to the Crown Nominations Commission, which is the body charged with nominating the new Archbishop.
Who are you going to nominate then? Next Archbishop. Could you nominate yourself? Go on, you'd be quite good, Michael.
Madeline Grant is my nomination.
Oh.
Oh, yes. She knows more about the Church of England than most of the people in the Church of England put together.
You'd be very good, but there might be a small stumbling block in the fact that you're a girl.
Yeah.
And
what? No, why would that be a stumbling block?
Well, I mean, because...
you're out of date.
Look, I'm not out of date. They say they pay lip service to the fact that women can do it, but...
Well, the place is riddled with women, Bishop.
Oh!
No?
What do you mean by riddled with women? We're not woodworm.
Sorry.
Well, no one rid us of these turbulent women.
There are lots of women, Bishop. What I meant to say.
This is going to be a long show, Michael Portilla.
I think we better move on to the weather. With Alex Deacon.
That's going to be grim. Here you go.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine, temperature 6 or 7 degrees. That's pretty much across the board, but it will feel colder than that in the south because of the wind, because of the thick cloud, and because of the outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which likely to pep up a little bit through the afternoon. So quite dull and dank along the M4. Some of that wet weather will turn to snow across parts of Wales for a time through the evening and overnight. Again, mostly over the hills. It's dry and fine further north, though, through this evening. Pretty quickly, though, with those clear skies in western Scotland, those temperatures will be back down below freezing. But the cloud increasing across eastern Scotland, thickening up all the while further south with further rain and drizzle moving in. As I said, overnight we could see some snow flurries through parts of Wales. Any snow, though, that's going to stick is really only over the hills. The moors could see a little in the southwest also, but mostly at low levels, just rain. Cold temperatures, though, just about staying above freezing with that blanket of cloud for England and Wales, but a frost certainly likely in western Scotland to start the weekend. But again, the Highlands, the Western Isles, that's the place to be for sunshine on Saturday. A cracking day to come here tomorrow. Some brightness elsewhere, particularly in the west, Northern Ireland, parts of southwest England, but for a good chunk of England, Wales, southern Scotland, another fairly dull day to come tomorrow with rain and drizzle at times, particularly over the Midlands and southern England. The wind's a little lighter, though, here tomorrow.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm taking from that it's going to be cold. In any case, you don't need to go anywhere, because still to come, the King and Queen have announced a state visit. That's next. This is GB News with Michael and Dawn.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
First, mate, we had lockdowns. Then we had soaring energy costs. Then we had a hike in national insurance for employers. Then we had soaring wage costs. And now the government expects people like you to monitor what people say in boozers. And if you don't, you might get sued. I bet you feel like saying cheers to them, don't you?
Look, it just looks like another war on pubs, you know. Remember, they tried to stop smoking outside as well. Luckily, they rethought that. But look, we've got everything stacked against us, Martin, and the last thing I need to do is go and get in people's conversations. At the end of the day, a pub is like an extension to your home. You know, it's a public house. Friends go to speak. Friends go to meet, unwind after work. It's none of my business what you're talking about. Any good publican, and myself included, anyone that was rude to anyone or on purpose, they want to offend people or they want to dig people out, antagonise them, of course I'm going to step in and say, behave yourself or you go. But look, how can I be on social media talking about everything, transgender, immigration, and people not be allowed to do that at the bar or do that at the table of a pub? It's ridiculous. And these ministers really do need to sort of look at this legislation and see where it could lead, because I'm not going to stop anyone speaking in my pub. Again, if they're trying to antagonise people or they're rude or trying to start trouble, they get thrown out the front door, you know, and any publican worth their salt is going to do that as well. But we're not there to police people's conversations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The King and Queen will host actor Stanley Tucci at a formal dinner this evening at Highgrove in celebration of slow food and slow fashion.
Me neither. It comes as new details emerge of the King and Queen's visit to the Republic of Italy in early April 2025, where they would join Pope Francis in celebrating the 2025 Jubilee year and carry out engagements in Rome and Ravenna.
Ravenna, I think.
I knew you'd do it like that.
Now, joining us now is the former royal butler, Grant Harold. Grant, good morning to you. It just struck me that the moment when the head of the Church of England meets the head of the Church of Rome must be quite an unusual and epic moment. Is that how you would describe it?
I think you're right. That's probably a very good way to describe it, Michael, because I remember, as I'm sure both you do, the late Queen, when she made similar state visits with obviously the previous Pope or previous popes. It's always quite interesting to see these two very important figureheads kind of meeting and being together. And it's also, with the late Queen, as I'm sure the King is, the way they interact with each other and the way they respect each other is quite amazing to watch. I mean, there's some great footage of Queen Elizabeth in the past, as they meeting previous popes.
This is explain a bit more about the 2025 Jubilee year, traditionally held every 25 years. It's a special year for the Catholic Church. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I'm not 100% too sure about it, but I know it's been mentioned quite a lot recently. And if I'm right in saying it started last month or something, the kind of celebrations began. So I'm not too sure about it myself, but obviously, as I'm sure you're both aware, when it comes to religion, that's one thing that our King is very passionate about. So it doesn't surprise me that he's going out there for these celebrations. The other thing that a lot of people don't realise that, I think it was always kind of discussed before he became king about, being defending the faith, which faith, because he very much represents and admires all faiths. And so much so at Highgrove, I don't know if either of you have been there, but he's got a little church, a little sanctuary within the grounds. And whatever faith you are, you can worship there. He's had it created that all the kind of heads of different churches met there, and it was created so that whatever faith you are, you can worship there. So what I'm trying to say is religion is a very important thing for him. So the fact that they're having these celebrations, it doesn't surprise me that he's actually going to go there, obviously be part of that or show support for it and meet with the Pope.
It's a double state visit. The two states involved. There's the Vatican and there's Italy. So one is a square mile and one is a major European economy. Should we take the view that the Italian thing has been tacked on to the Vatican? You're just making it sound as though the King is really interested in going to the Vatican. Is he quite interested in going to Italy too, do you think?
No, I think this has just been, as I'm sure you can appreciate, it's kind of common sense, isn't it? The fact that he's there, they're thinking, well, let's just, do the two at the same time. I think also, he's getting on a little bit. Obviously, he's a little bit older. When his mother became queen and she was undertaking state visits, obviously, she was a lot younger. I think because of, obviously, the age, recent, obviously with his health and everything, they're probably just kind of being sensible about how they plan these kind of things. And this is already his ninth state visit since becoming king. Wow. So I just think they're probably just planning it carefully and trying to make the most of his time where he's overseas.
Grant, how long's he out there for quickly, and how is his health at the moment?
With all state visits, there's normally, it can be up for a couple of days, up to about a week. I'm not too sure exactly how long he's there for, but again, these kind of things, when they get planned, they make the most of it. So it's not normally, he can guarantee he's not there for 24 hours normally. Health-wise, as far as I'm aware, he's doing really well. I mean, from the kind of my contacts, if I can say that, from my previous time with the King, have all said that he's doing really well. He's very positive, obviously. And like so many other people that are kind of battling, not just cancer, so many awful diseases, the amazing thing is that they have this resilience just to carry on. And that's what he's very much doing, as we know.
He's great. He's a great example. Grant, Harold, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We are giving you 2 chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 amazing prize bundles to be won. Each bundle contains a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store, and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Do you fancy your chances of being one of the 2 winners? Here are all the details that you need.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not 1, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message.
Trains aren't running between Newton or Willows and either Manchester Oxford Road or Manchester Victoria because of overhead line problems. On the M6 in Staffordshire, there are southbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Stafford South to the A5 Gailey interchange in Leicestershire. The A594 is closed eastbound along St George's Way in Leicester after an accident. In East Sussex, the A21 is partly blocked along London Road at Silver Hill where a car hit a tree. And on the M5 in Devon, the inside lane's closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 27 and 26 from Tiverton towards Wellington. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. To hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimizing being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, you're 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's time to go through all the latest sports news. Broadcaster Paul Quitt is here.
I love the fact
again.
Call me broadcaster. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you.
What are you going to tell us?
Firstly...
football results, by any chance?
You don't have a team, though, Michael, do you?
No, I don't have a team.
Is it possible that we could maybe put a case for, maybe you could put a case for West Ham, I'll put a case for Spurs. Well, that's not going to happen.
There's a man of taste.
I know, that's the thing. Maybe it's time we found you a team.
Just looking down here, would Leicester be a good idea? Because
no,
didn't they lose to Everton? What was the score? Was it 4-0?
Yeah.
Another 4-0.
And Leicester, they're playing, man. Yeah. So I don't think Leicester are the team for you.
No.
What do you want? Do you want glory, or do you want excitement? Do you want something that's going to worry you? Something that's going to bring you misery? Because we could probably give you a team
success. I want growth.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of Rachel Reeves kind of man.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sound like Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, my God.
Well, we'll find someone for you. Maybe Liverpool is the answer, because Liverpool are probably the best team.
Could be. They're doing well,
Europe,
aren't they?
I would say at the moment. See, the thing is, as good as Liverpool were, this is in the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg. So Newcastle got there, so they're in the Carabao Cup final in March. And the second leg, Liverpool versus Spurs, Spurs were 1-0 up after the first leg. They go to Anfield. They haven't won there for 14 years. And Liverpool were excellent, and Spurs were the complete opposite of that. And really, honestly, they didn't even have one shot on target throughout the entire game, and that's the first time.
You know, you are a remarkable broadcasting journalist, because you're saying that in such an even-handed way, isn't he? He's saying that as a true professional, even though his heart is breaking.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Smile, though your heart is breaking, as Charlie Chaplin wrote. There's a tear in my eye, but always a song in my heart.
He hides it very well.
So let's see what Ange had to say. Ange Postecoglou, the Spurs manager. Now, the thing about Ange, Michael, is that Ange won't look you in the eye if you're interviewing him. He will either look... He usually looks down here, and he was asked about the game. This is what Ange had to say, probably down there somewhere.
It's disappointing. It was a great opportunity for us tonight to get to a final. We didn't take that opportunity. We didn't give ourselves a chance to take the opportunity, which is probably more disappointing. But, you know, ultimately it's an opportunity for further learning and an opportunity for us to kind of atone for that by making amends and with a stronger performance on Sunday.
Unfortunately, there's been a lot of games for further learning that Spurs have had recently. In the next game, he talks about Aston Villa away in the FA Cup on Sunday.
You've dropped your voice in sympathy with that.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I didn't even realise I was doing it. I was
looking.
finding myself looking down here.
I just wonder, does he talk to his wife like that? Can you imagine the dinner table?
Yeah, that's it.
What's for dinner?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, what you don't realise is that the entire press and his wife and everybody that speaks to him, they know they've got to sit down there. So if you just look up like there and there he'll be. But Ange was not happy. But, Spurs fans are very unhappy. They don't know whether to blame the board, blame the manager, blame the players. There always has to be someone that you will be upset with. But at the moment, everybody's like, it's just so bad, we don't know what to do. And it was very, very disappointing. You don't mind if you have a team that will go out, even if the quality's not there, and just give everything. You know, I'd go out and give 100%. I'd be rubbish, but I would give everything, and that's the problem. We looked at it yesterday and thought, where was the quality coming from?
Well, our sympathy to you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
No, not from me, no.
OK, well,
I don't care.
I think he's a true professional. I think
Thank
he's
you,
done
sir.
very well indeed. Still
I
to
feel
come.
the same about you, by the way.
We will be going through the newspapers. Scarlett Maguire and Charlie Rowley will be here. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A wet start to this weekend in Mallorca, but the rain should be clearing from the Balearics by Sunday. Plenty of showers to come across Italy. Lots of fine and sunny weather over the Greek islands. A bit of a chilly breeze, though, blowing here across Turkey and Cyprus. Some wet weather, as I said, across Italy and the south of France looking pretty soggy. That rain clearing away from the Balearics. Plenty of sunshine across the Canaries. That should last through the weekend into the early part of next week. Sunny on Sunday in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We're
proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You really don't want to miss what's coming up next. It's only Michael Portillo explaining why Lego is sexist and is... In any case, it's all coming up. We're going to go through the news. Yes, you are. That was very funny what you said. We're going to go through the newspapers with former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire and former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley, who is looking very fetching with the new facial fuzz.
Thank you very much.
Loving it.
Thank you.
Scarlett.
Yes.
What have you got for us?
Right, OK, what's really interesting is there's been a surge of women carrying knives because of the Sarah Everard case, and I think this is madness, right? Because actually, I remember many years ago when I was very young and I was going to hitchhike on my own to Munich, and I said, oh, I'll take a knife, and my boyfriend said, who I was, he actually was living in Munich at the Munich. That's who I was going to see. But while we were planning it, he said, OK, take the knife. And then he just took it out of my hand and he said, if you have a knife, you're much more likely to have it used against you. Now, I'm not saying all women are like me and all women are weak, but it really is a crazy idea to carry knives.
Whether it's crazy or not, it's immensely depressing, isn't it?
Oh, terrible.
That so many women feel themselves in this position. That is really depressing.
No, it's really depressing. But actually, what was interesting was when the Sarah Everard case came up, it was interesting how many women walk along at night with the keys between them, so which is equally depressing. Ever since I moved to London many decades ago, I have sworn to myself that I can go, apart from parks at night, I can go where I want, when I want. And I have and that's how I walk. But I think it's really, really tough, actually.
And is that a statement of your own personal courage, or is it that you mean you feel relatively safe apart from parties.
It's a bit of both, but it is also saying, you know, why can't I go where I want? But actually, the other thing to be really horrible about it is you have to look as though you know what you're doing and where you're going.
Very much so. Walk with confidence, hold yourself with confidence. I think there's another part of this story as well, Charlie, is the fact that the rise of gangs, certainly in our cities, that many girls in gangs are being asked to carry knives by the men in gangs because they feel like the girls are less likely to get stopped and searched.
Exactly so, and that's why I think there has been a rise in a number of the stops and searches. But I think it is in part a complete lack of confidence in the police, which I think is obviously awful amongst some obviously women that do carry knives. But those are being used by gangs. You then don't have to look too far to know that you still then need to go to the heart of the problem, which is probably and overwhelmingly young men that are involved in gang violence compared to women. I mean, I'm not saying that women are totally excluded, but it is traditionally young men that you see.
How do you feel, by the way, as a youngish man who's not involved in gang violence? I mean, no, seriously, do you feel sometimes in danger yourself? Because, I mean, youngish men are even arbitrarily victims of this sort of crime.
I do. I don't want to overplay it because I think traditionally gang violence, it is gang on gang. You do rarely, but often hear about maybe sometimes an innocent bystander that sort of is good. But the gang violence usually takes place amongst conflicting gangs and groups of individuals. But you're absolutely right. You can walk down maybe after a dinner one evening, whether in the heart of London or any kind of city centre, you don't see a police officer for love nor money these days. And the idea that they will the idea that they'll go after the perpetrators, even if you report them. I mean, the amount of even just phone snatches that take place in our city centres, 10 a penny.
In London, one every 4 minutes.
One every 4 minutes.
There's rape every hour.
And where are the police? They're nowhere to be seen at the hours that
let's
you
just say on that point, I've seen the news report that there have been hundreds of people arrested for phone snatching just recently.
Oh yes, and they found hundreds. They found hundreds of phones. But I know 2 cases where people went, because you have Find My Phone on iPhone, and the people went and said to the police, "This is where they are," and they went. But and it's the same with bicycles. I mean. But actually, it's been the same for decades that the police haven't gone after individuals. But this whole thing about a friend of mine, I mean, who sometimes does GB News, Joe Phillips, I mean, was held up with a screwdriver, right? I mean, it was just so. And these are by 2. But the thing about gangs is they also pick on people, men more often. I mean, you're right. Yes. Men more dangerous.
Scarlett, may we have a lighter moment?
Yes.
And I think it might be provided by Lego, don't you?
Yeah, go on.
Charlie, what's the Lego story?
Well, it's a slightly bonkers story because if you read the Daily Mail, and it'll be another papers as well, it is the Science Museum have suggested that Lego, that all-time kiddies' favourite game, and maybe for some adults too, if you're still into your Lego. Nothing wrong with that. But it is, I'm afraid, homophobic. And according to the Science Museum, because it portrays this overbearing essence of heteronormity, which is obviously...
How?
I was going to say, what does that mean?
By what means?
What does that mean?
Well, basically, it's discriminating against gay people because, Lego is a straight game because... Obviously, when you piece it together, you piece the puzzle of the bricks together, there are clearly some elements of the Lego that are humped and others that are not. When you slot it together...
One does talk in engineering. One does talk in engineering about male and female components.
Well, yes.
And these are... allegedly male and female components.
Yes, they slot together, and that slotting together is supposed to, apparently, according to this part of the Science Museum, which is doing a talk called Seeing Things Queerly. Queer in its old use, quite strange. This is very strange.
Is slotting together purely a heterosexual thing?
Well, as someone that's never been kissed, Michael, I don't know. Of course it's not. And of course, two pieces of whether they're people or bits of Lego that are coming together in a happy union of any colour, I think is whatever colour the bricks might be. I mean, I think my tie and my shirt, is complementing each other, but you wouldn't
Scarlett,
say one is.
A very quick comment. Very quick.
I don't understand this at all.
It would be way to get a load of fuzzy felts. I mean, fuzzy felts. Remember fuzzy felts?
I remember
really
fuzzy felts.
They were
very
literally
feminine.
sticking together. We've
stick
run
to
out of
the
time.
sound.
Thank you very much.
Time for the weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine, temperature 6 or 7 degrees. That's pretty much across the board, but it will feel colder than that in the south because of the wind, because of the thick cloud, and because of the outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which likely to pep up a little bit through the afternoon. So quite dull and dank along the M4. Some of that wet weather will turn to snow across parts of Wales for a time through the evening and overnight. Again, mostly over the hills. It's dry and fine further north, though, through this evening. Pretty quickly, though, with those clear skies in western Scotland, those temperatures will be back down below freezing. But the cloud increasing across eastern Scotland, thickening up all the while further south with further rain and drizzle moving in. As I said, overnight we could see some snow flurries through parts of Wales. Any snow, though, that's going to stick is really only over the hills. The moors could see a little in the southwest also, but mostly at low levels, just rain. Cold temperatures, though, just about staying above freezing with that blanket of cloud for England and Wales, but a frost certainly likely in western Scotland to start the weekend. But again, the Highlands, the Western Isles, that's the place to be for sunshine on Saturday. A cracking day to come here tomorrow. Some brightness elsewhere, particularly in the west, Northern Ireland, parts of southwest England, but for a good chunk of England, Wales, southern Scotland, another fairly dull day to come tomorrow with rain and drizzle at times, particularly over the Midlands and southern England. The wind's a little lighter, though, here tomorrow.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Durham, the A19 is closed southbound from the A179 Sheraton Junction to the A689 at Wolviston after an accident. In Greater Manchester, the A57 is blocked westbound by an accident on the roundabout off Junction 3 of the M602, the Regent Road roundabout at Salford in Manchester. Train services are suspended between Newton and Willows and Manchester Oxford Road, Manchester Victoria and Manchester Airport because of an incident at Eccles. On the M6 in Staffordshire, 2 lanes are closed southbound just after Junction 13 south of Stafford after an accident causing delays. In Leicestershire, the A594 is closed eastbound along St George's Way in Leicester after an accident. And in East Sussex, the A21 is partly blocked by a car hit a tree on London Road at Silver Hill. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win.
Here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good morning. A crisis for the Chancellor of the Exchequer as her plans for growth are dealt a major blow.
Britain faces a new era of inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation as economic alarm bells begin to ring.
The Bank of England is painting a stark picture as it cuts the growth forecast in half and warns of bumpy times ahead.
We live in an uncertain world and the road ahead will have bumps on it.
That's as Red Wall Labour MP Jo White warns the government is ignoring the North as she issues this challenge to the Chancellor.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North.
A very big poll shock. Could we face a three-way election tie? New polling reveals which cabinet ministers are most at risk of losing their seats as Reform UK continues to surge in the polls.
And peace by Easter. A leaked report has revealed President Trump's 100-day plan to end war in Ukraine. But will he be able to achieve it?
A Roman holiday for the King and Queen. The palace confirms new details for the upcoming state visit to Italy with a visit to the Vatican and a meeting with His Holiness the Pope confirmed.
And TV chef accused Gino De Campo faces allegations of intimidating and inappropriate behaviour, claims he denies.
Determination to push our country forward. We were a leader in nuclear. I'm determined we're going to be a leader again, and today is a huge step forward.
Back to nuclear. The Prime Minister unveils plans for more nuclear power stations. We'll be debating whether that is the right way to go.
And in the sport this morning, Liverpool sweep Tottenham Hotspur aside to cruise into the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle next month. It's FA Cup fourth round weekend, which starts with Vru van Nistelrooy's return to Old Trafford tonight. And the Premier League of Darts returned in Belfast last night. And Luke Littler, he wasn't late, but he did lose.
A duller day for many today and feeling a lot colder in the south thanks to a brisk wind. One or two places, though, will still have some sunshine. Join me later to find out where.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Michael Portillo.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast. So welcome, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday morning. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the week and we really appreciate your company today. We have got a really packed show for you, so you really want to be moving anywhere. Some good stories for you and some fun as well. Okay, now Chancellor Rachel Reeves' plans for growth have been dealt a major blow this week after a disastrous forecast from the Bank of England yesterday.
Britain now faces a new era of rising inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation, with the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, warning that Britain's bloated public sector is dragging down the whole economy.
I think it's fair to say that we have seen an increase in public sector employment. We haven't seen a commensurate increase in measured public sector output.
That comes after the Bank of England slashed its 2025 growth forecast in half to just 0.75%, which means that cost of living pressures are on the rise again, with inflation set to climb to 3.7% this year.
The bank said that growth has been weaker than expected, and that raises questions over whether Chancellor Rachel Reeves is representing everyone in Britain. GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, sat down with Labour MP for Bassett Law Jo White to discuss the angered Red Wall MPs.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North, telling our story, because by telling a story, you're actually attracting inward investment and you're attracting new businesses. So come to the North, please, Rachel. You are Leeds MP.
Correct.
Tell our story, and we have a good one, and where we want to invest and where we want to get the new skills. And I'll be clapping loudly from the sidelines.
OK, we're joined now by Lib Dem Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper. Daisy, thank you. Oh, very, very fetching pink there. It's cold out there, isn't it? Daisy, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your time. Daisy, today the Lib Dems are talking about crumbling hospitals task force you're announcing. Tell us more about that.
Well, around the country, there are communities who've been waiting for decades for new hospitals. And we know that it was a central pledge of the last Conservative government, one of their 3 flagship pledges. But unfortunately, that programme was messed up. And now the Labour government have stretched out the timeline for years ahead. And what we're saying is that we desperately need the centre of government to grip this problem, set up a crumbling hospitals task force so we can protect patients as hospitals continue to fall apart, and at the same time really drive forward this programme so it doesn't slip anymore.
Daisy, good morning to you. Michael here. All very well. Hospitals are not built by task forces. They're built with capital. They're built with money. And the problem appears to be that the government and the country doesn't have any money at the moment. Where would the money come from?
Well, the schedule that the government has set out will be rebuilding these hospitals between now and 2040. Clearly, the way to make that happen faster and to find the money is to get growth into the economy. And that's a major problem at the moment. The government is absolutely right to say that growth is its #1 priority, but the government's measures simply don't stack up. And the announcements just yesterday and the warnings that growth is going to be much lower than previously forecasted should be a real wake-up call for the Chancellor. We have said that she should cancel the jobs tax, which the government is planning to bring into effect in April. And we do think as well there's a very strong case for the government to renegotiate the botched Brexit deal that we have with the EU to try and get rid of the red tape that is holding back British businesses from doing all the trade that they could be doing right now.
So, Daisy, when you say renegotiating with the EU again, would you be more than happy to go back into the EU?
So that isn't on the table, right? As a Liberal Democrat, I do think that there's a place for the UK at the heart of Europe, but that isn't an option that's on the table. What is on the table is the opportunity to renegotiate those trading rules, to get rid of the red tape and the reams of paperwork that small British businesses have to complete if they want to trade with our closest and biggest trading neighbour. It is absolutely crackers that small independent businesses around the UK, entrepreneurs wanting to set up their first company, have to fill in reams of paperwork, spend absolutely hours doing it, or paying a third party to fill in the forms simply to sell their products to neighbours that are only a few hundred miles away in some cases. So by getting rid of that red tape and the paperwork, it really could be a real boost to Britain, a boost to our economy, and it could really unleash the growth that can come from our small British businesses.
Daisy, many people will cheer hearing you say that you want to get rid of the jobs tax, but it does raise many billions. What would you replace it with?
Well, the government said initially they thought it was going to raise £25 billion, but actually the OBR has looked at those numbers and they've said that when you adjust for behaviour change and reimbursing the public sector, it only raises £10 billion.
Where
and we've said a number of times that there are alternative ways to raise that money. We would reverse the Conservatives' tax cuts on the big banks that would raise £4 billion a year. We would look to raise the tech tax on the big tech companies, which could raise several £billion a year. We would be looking to raise the gaming duty on the big gaming companies that have made lots of profits. That could also raise billions. And we would reform capital gains tax in a way that is fairer and would raise more money. Those 4 measures alone could raise that £10 billion in a way that is much fairer, where the big businesses are paying, but small businesses don't have to.
Daisy, I have to ask you this. I mean, Trump has obviously hit the ground running in the USA. He hasn't been very complimentary about your leader, Ed Davey, calling him a snivelling cretin on social media. What do you say to that?
Well, it's a slightly silly insult, really, isn't it? But let's be honest, I think some of Trump's actions are really quite dangerous. We're particularly concerned that if he does really launch into... Well, I think if he launches a whole stream of tariffs, whether they're on the UK or not, we will feel the ripple effects. And we can't simply just sit here and hide in a hole and hope that it all blows over. We've got to start acting in the national interest. We have to make it clear to Donald Trump, who effectively is very transactional, that if he wants to do a deal with us, that we've got other options on the table. And that's just another reason why we've said we should be renegotiating that trading deal right now to get at the red tape that's holding back small British businesses so that we can go into any negotiation negotiations with Donald Trump to be very clear to say that we've got other deals potentially on the table. So we are concerned about tariffs, we're concerned about the impact that will have on the cost of living, we're very worried that it'll have the impact on public services and whether we'll be able to raise the money we need to get our NHS and care back on their feet. But we're also very concerned about our security. We Liberal Democrats, we're the party of Paddy Ashdown. We're very concerned that Donald Trump poses a threat to our success in Ukraine.
Daisy Cooper, thank you so much for joining us on this cold morning from outside Parliament in London. And we're joined now by sketch writer and columnist at the Daily Telegraph, Madeline Grant. We managed earlier, Madeline, to discuss the polls without mentioning the Liberal Democrats. Were we right not to mention them?
I think the Lib Dems have actually, because of the dissatisfaction with both Labour and Tory, they were always going to be a massive beneficiary. However, in Parliament, they're often overlooked, but I think in electoral terms, highly significant, and they may yet be the kingmakers in, some future coalition, perhaps. So we definitely should mention the Lib Dems.
But they are, I mean, the latest voting intention by Find Out Now has Reform on 29% and the Lib Dems on 13%. I mean, Daisy Cooper must be very frustrated. I mean, regardless of what you think of her polls, her opinions, is anyone actually taking a notice of what the Lib Dems are saying?
Well, the fascinating thing about the Lib Dems is that, as you say, that overall the numbers are not enormous. However, at the last general election, it became clear that they are the single most efficient party in terms of seats per vote ratio. Their votes are often clustered in particular parts of the country, which gives them...
target them in
Yes, and also I think that they have, perhaps their appeal is it's not perhaps a universal appeal, but it goes down extremely well in certain constituencies. They have kind of the opposite situation to what Reform have had, which is a very spread out diffusion of support. So it means that actually the Lib Dems have really worked out, having complained a lot about the first past the post system, they've completely hacked it to their advantage, and they now have, to their credit, they have a lot of seats for not that many votes.
I'll tell you who does care about the Lib Dems, and that is the Conservatives, because I think I'm right in saying that within this poll, although this would reveal a 50-seat net increase for the Conservatives, within that there would be changes, with some Conservatives losing their seats to Liberal Democrats, some more Conservatives losing their seats to Liberal Democrats.
Absolutely. There were quite a few who only clung on by a whisker. The Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, I think he won Central Devon with 60 votes majority, 61 vote majority, and there were quite a few like this. The Tory party is almost riding two horses at once. It has a good number of its MPs have seats that face towards the Lib Dems, and then there are also those who face towards Reform or Labour. So finding a policy platform to satisfy all of these different types of seats is very difficult for the Tories.
Interesting. Just keep your views coming in as well. Gerald has said, I look at the Lib Dems as weird Labour types. I don't get the point of that party. And a lot of people are echoing that sentiment.
Well, traditionally the Lib Dems have been the place where you go often if you're dissatisfied with mainstream party politics. It's but let's say you're not of the right, you're more of the left. I think we will see, especially after a few more years of Keir Starmer, a lot more people who find themselves in that camp. And it may be that there's an element of protest to their vote, but it all amounts to the same thing in parliamentary terms, in electoral terms.
What about political reactions to this extraordinary poll? I mean, the poll, in a way, is neither here nor there because we're 4 years away from an election. But on the other hand, I mean, it is shaking people up. I believe there's a political cabinet today, and for people who don't know what that means, it means that the cabinet meets without officials present so they can talk about politics. I mean, the government has to discuss its response to the growth situation, to the interest rate situation, the inflation situation, and the Reform UK situation, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes. And what the Governor of the Bank of England came out with, which I thought was unusually scathing and forthright. Not often the Bank of England is often the last to notice things, and it speaks in quite technocratic language. But it was pretty, I think, about as scathing as you get from the Governor. And where I think there is ought to be a real worry for the government is that so far their approach has been to obviously prioritise the public sector and public sector workers. there's a risk that they become exclusively a kind of client state for the public sector. The news that growth has been halved from 1.5, which wasn't exactly fantastic, to 0.75. We have 500,000 a year additional workers in the public sector, but there has been no corresponding increase in productivity. In fact, productivity has gone down. There's an awful lot of taxpayers in the private sector who are paying more than ever for a worse service. And I think, that dissatisfaction is already being felt, and it will continue to be felt unless something drastic changes.
Kate, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are joined now by the Shadow Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, Kevin Hollingray. Kevin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Dawn.
Morning, Kevin.
Kevin, my sympathy to you. I mean, this poll is just kind of ghastly for the Conservatives, isn't it? I think 18% for the Conservatives, 29% for Reform UK. I mean, this is a nightmare, isn't it?
Well, you look at what happened last night in the real world, Michael. We saw a fantastic by-election result in Baxenden, which is up in the northwest near Accrington, where we won a council by-election there from Labour. Labour ended up third, Reform second. So we know on the doorstep, if we get good candidates out there making the case for the Conservative Party and our new leadership, then we can win elections. That's the reality. We've got work to do, Michael. There's no doubt about it. It'll take some time before people realise that Kemi is the real deal. She's a true blue Tory. This is new leadership. The policies they will see coming out of Kemi, like the changes to immigration rules that were announced the last couple of days in terms of making it much more difficult for people who have come into this country to become a British citizen and raising the bar for citizenship in the UK, which I think is the right thing. When people see those kind of policies, the detail behind those policies and the new policies that will come forward subsequently, people realise that Kemi is a different kind of leader and one I think they will welcome.
Kemi's latest statement policy was about low-paid workers being sent home. She talks a lot about migration, which we all know is an important thing. That's what's helping reform. But it has led to comparisons between her being basically a tribute act to Nigel Farage and reform. What would you say to that?
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, if people want to see proper Conservative policies, I think just listen to what Kemi's going to come forward with. I mean, it is not controversial, I don't think, to want to control migration. I think every Conservative leader has talked about that. They just haven't delivered upon it. And there were some fair reasons at some point in the past because we had open borders through the EU. We don't have that now. We've got the levers under our control. We made mistakes in the use of some of those levers. But I think the fact that Kemi wants to bring migration down significantly and make it more difficult to become a British citizen, which I think both raises the value of being a British citizen in our own minds, but also the fact that I think it's a deterrent for poor behaviour when people come here. As you said yesterday, if you ever commit a crime in the UK, which you're convicted of a crime, you'll never be allowed to become a British citizen. I think that's absolutely right. I think, as she says, if you've been a drain on the state, if you've been in receipt of benefits or social housing, again, you won't be able to claim British citizenship. We want people to come here who are net contributors. I think that's absolutely the right message, and there'll be lots more messages coming down the track. I think people will like.
Kevin, don't you have a big credibility problem? Because, I mean, even if people thought that Kemi Badenoch was different from what went before, what they're going to remember time and again is that the Conservatives promised to bring inflation down to tens of thousands. It became hundreds of thousands. It went up to nearly 1 million under the Conservatives. I mean, Kemi doesn't have a hope, does she? Because people are just going to say, we don't believe you.
I get that as that credibility problem. I accept that, Michael, which I said earlier. I think it's going to take time for people to realise that Kemi is a different kind of leader. This is new leadership. What Kemi's been very clear on, I think it's frustrating some people, is that she wants to make sure the policies are workable and they'll deliver the right outcome before she announces them, which means maybe people say, I want those policies now, but she'll take time in making sure we have policies that will deliver the result. I think in the past, what's happened is a number of our leaders in the past have made the claims and set the expectations that I think people welcome in terms of the numbers of people allowing to come into the UK, but then not delivered upon it. I think Kemi will make sure the policies that we bring forward are deliverable. And not just that, I think people will like those policies. I think they are the right things to do. I don't think we should control migration because Reform are saying they'll control migration. I think we should do it because it's the right thing to do for this country.
Kevin, just quickly, very finally, this latest poll, if it was the general election were held tomorrow, the figures were replicated, the most likely outcome would be a Conservative Reform UK coalition. The way it looks at the moment, that's the only way you are going to stop another Labour government. Surely it's time to accept that that is a possibility.
I don't think it's the right thing. I think what we want and what Reform wants are very similar things. What the biggest danger we will have is that we split our vote, and we almost saw this yesterday in some of those by-election results. So yes, I get the fact that some people feel that we let them down on migration, and we have. We've made mistakes. But I think if we can get the message across to the people of this country that this time we get it right on migration, that the policies are deliverable, then I think people will trust us.
So, Kevin, you are saying that even if it was, it was leading to another Labour government, the Conservative Party would not join up with Reform?
Well, I think the Labour government will get completely wiped out the next election. You see how bad this stuff is, and we've been saying it all the way through. It is if you vote Reform, you'll get more of
That wasn't the question, though, was it? Would you ever work with Reform to prevent another Labour government?
I don't think that's the right thing to do.
OK. Thank you very much, Kevin Hollingrig.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Actually, I thought it was jolly interesting. You just said that what Reform UK and what the Conservatives want were roughly the same thing.
They're roughly the same thing. So if you want to prevent a Labour government, then...
I thought that was an interesting admission.
Very much.
But it's time for the weather with Alex Deakin.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine, temperature 6 or 7 degrees. That's pretty much across the board, but it will feel colder than that in the south because of the wind, because of the thick cloud, and because of the outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which are likely to pep up a little bit through the afternoon. So quite dull and dank along the M4. Some of that wet weather will turn to snow across parts of Wales for a time through the evening and overnight. Again, mostly over the hills. It's dry and fine further north, though, through this evening. Pretty quickly, though, with those clear skies in western Scotland, those temperatures will be back down below freezing. But the cloud increasing across eastern Scotland, thickening up all the while further south with further rain and drizzle moving in. As I said, overnight we could see some snow flurries through parts of Wales. Any snow, though, that's going to stick is really only over the hills. The moors could see a little in the southwest also, but mostly at low levels, just rain. Cold temperatures, though, just about staying above freezing with that blanket of cloud for England and Wales, but a frost certainly likely in western Scotland to start the weekend. But again, the Highlands, the Western Isles, that's the place to be for sunshine on Saturday. A cracking day to come here tomorrow. Some brightness elsewhere, particularly in the west, Northern Ireland, parts of southwest England, but for a good chunk of England, Wales, southern Scotland, another fairly dull day to come tomorrow with rain and drizzle at times, particularly over the Midlands and southern England. The wind's a little lighter, though, here tomorrow.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Oh, if you are getting a little bit fed up with the British weather, though, how about we give you a chance to win our latest Great British giveaway? We've got 2 amazing prize bundles to be won. Each bundle contains a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store, and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Rachel Reeves can't get her hands on it. Fancy chance to be one of those two winners? Well, here's how you do it.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232.
Do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, welcome back. The Prime Minister has vowed to fight the NIMBYs and lift restrictions on where nuclear power plants can be built across the country. Speaking yesterday at a nuclear facility in Lancashire, the PM pledged to create thousands of jobs and take back control of our energy.
If we push on what you're doing within your sector, it means that we're in control of our energy. It's not subject to international volatility, and Putin can't put his boot on our throat. So I just elevated what you're doing beyond the national to the international here, but that's how important it is, and it's part of our determination to push our country forward. We were a leader in nuclear. I'm determined we're going to be a leader again, and today is a huge step forward.
Oh, that voice coach was money well spent, wasn't it? Any case, I digress. So should Britain get back to a nuclear nation? We're joined now by Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation, Harry Wilkinson, and Director of Climate Media Coalition, Donica McCarthy. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. OK, so who wants to kick off with this one then? Let's go to you, Donica, first. Nuclear power, surely it's the only way forward?
Well, I think yesterday's decision was probably the worst one made yet by the Labour government. The last thing you want to hear about nuclear power is the government is tearing up the rule book. We already know what happened when they tore up the rule book on sewage. Our rivers got filled with sewage. We know what happened when they tore up the rule book on insulation. Grenfell happened. Well, nuclear power is the most expensive energy on the planet. We've tried to build Hinkley Point. Environmentalists told the government 20 years ago it would be billions over budget and years behind schedule, and that's exactly what happened. And so the numbers are terrifying. 1 in 100 nuclear power stations have blown up. What is the cost? In Fukushima, the cost of repairing it and dealing with the waste of the accident is estimated to cost between $500 billion and $1 trillion. Now, that means that Keir Starmer is playing Russian roulette with the future of the British countryside and the British economy.
Harry Wilkinson, I was part of the team in the Department of Energy in 1981 that announced the building of Sizewell B, which I think is the last nuclear reactor to have been completed in this country. That's 44 years ago. Whatever you think of Donica's objections, are nuclear power stations going to happen in this country? Our record is simply dreadful.
Well, that was a really important decision that you made and a really positive one. It's really disappointing to hear Donica be so negative on nuclear, when nuclear actually is the technology with the biggest capacity to actually bring our emissions down in a way that's also affordable, that provides that industrial energy that people need as well. Because this isn't just about providing electricity in people's homes, it's about providing those industrial uses. In Britain, we've seen our chemical sector, for example, fall by 38%. We've seen steel industries close. Britain's manufacturing capacity is seriously on decline. We need cheap energy, and this is really welcome news from the Prime Minister to actually pull back some of those regulations and that NIMBYism that is, of course, holding this technology back. Nuclear is safe. You know, when you compare internationally nuclear with other technologies, it has one of the best safety records. Of course, there's been some high-profile incidents. We're talking about small modular nuclear reactors here. I'm not aware of an incident with one of these smaller scale reactors.
Because they haven't been built.
But certainly, even Fukushima, you know, much of the cost of this is to do with regulations around how you treat the soil after the disaster. So again, nuclear is the technology where it's really up to the government to control the cost of this. And so that's why we haven't been seeing that nuclear power, you know, go ahead in the last few decades, because the regulatory environment has been so harsh, the planning environment has been so harsh. You know, we talk about decarbonising the power grid. You know, France did this decades ago by having a massive nuclear rollout. It's the only technology that can actually give us that reliability and be zero carbon. So people like Donica
should be absolutely It's very strange to hear the Global Warming Cause Foundation going into this.
I think, Donica, we've just got time for a quick response.
Harry represents the oil lobby. The oil lobby always pushes nuclear. Why? Because they know nuclear takes ages and costs a fortune, and so therefore it maintains their monopoly on power. Starmer said that we're going to free ourselves from Putin by actually building a nuclear power station. Do you know where 41% of uranium comes from? It comes from former Soviet republics, including Russia. We have no source of uranium in this country. It's filthy. And the cost of cleaning it up, the single most largest subsidy to energy in this country is to nuclear, because it costs £260 billion to clean up the nuclear power stations that Starmer mentioned. Yes, we were a leader in nuclear power in the 1950s, and we're still paying the cost of it.
But Donica, just finally, if we don't use nuclear power, people are struggling paying their energy bills as it is. How do we get cheap, affordable, green energy in this country?
Well, if you look at the current costs of electricity per megawatt, nuclear is £123 per megawatt, storage is £91 per megawatt, wind energy is £44, and the cheapest by far is solar energy at £38 per megawatt. My energy last night was provided by solar power from the roof of my house yesterday, and last night, right through the night, my heating was supplied by free electricity from my battery.
Donica McCarthy, thank you very much. Harry Wilkinson, thank you very much too. Sorry we didn't have time for more from you. That is a debate that we just was starting there, really.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to say on that one, but still to come. Paul Coyett will be here with all your latest sports news, including Spurs. That's next. This is GB News with Dawn and Michael.
the latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Durham, the A19 is closed southbound from the A179 Sheraton Junction to the A689 at Wolverston after an accident. There are queues on both the A19 and A179 towards Hartlepool. As you divert, buses replace trains between Manchester Victoria and Newton the Willows, with no service on a number of lines through Eccles because of overhead line problems and an incident. Mersey Ferry suspended because of a technical problem. In Nottinghamshire, the A614 is closed along Blythe Road off the A1 east of Worksop after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A594 is closed eastbound along St George's Way in Leicester after an accident. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. In East Sussex, the A21 is blocked at Silver Hill where a car hit a tree. That's the latest. You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Now it's time to go through all the latest sports. Paul Coit is back with us.
Yeah, but I'm not playing. I'm not playing this game anymore because you've got a story about trains that you both know and you won't tell me. So I'm not playing.
I'm sure Michael will tell you later.
Mm-hmm.
How many
sports?
Let's do what I'm here to do. Look, come on, you.
Not playing.
Liverpool. Well, I don't want to play
But I'm
because
wearing
Liverpool
Liverpool
4. Liverpool 4, Spurs 0. It's the second leg of the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We'll put it this way: Spurs did not have one shot on target throughout the game, and Spurs were 1-0 up after the first leg. And Liverpool, it was a walk in the park. I've got to tell you, Liverpool, when you look at the difference, when Newcastle beat Arsenal the night before and they'd got to Wembley, the celebrations, every other crowd, it seemed almost like at Liverpool they were almost embarrassed. It was like so easy, which for me is very upsetting.
At which point do you think manager Ange thinks that maybe defending... How many goals does it need before Ange starts thinking maybe just defending now is not a good idea?
See, well, this is the thing. It's between a rock and a hard place there for Ange, because it's like people are complaining when everybody goes, it's this gung-ho, go-forward football, and then he defended, and then it was like, well, that wasn't right. It's a tough old business.
I felt sorry for Newcastle.
Would you like to change the subject? I bet you would.
Would you like?
Oh, can we talk about trains?
Well,
oh no.
On you go.
Let's. What on me go? What do you want? Should we do darts? You want to do a little dance?
Yeah, I'm sure you've got a couple of sharp points to talk about that.
Too.
Oh.
Luke Humphreys won the Premier League of Darts opening tournament, which happened in Belfast last night. Now, there's Luke Humphreys there, former world champion. He is the world number one, but he said that Luke Littler is actually the best player in the world. Now, Luke, as we know, is 18 years old and the world champion, but Luke lost to Michael van Gerwen in the first quarter-final. But this is the thing, the average. Are you a dance player, Michael? I'm sure you've thrown the arrows a bit, haven't you?
I've tossed a couple in my time.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
But the average was 115.8. That Luke Littler scored 3. That's an average. So if you think you've got to score a double as well, 115.8, which is the highest losing average since about.
But how very generous to say of another person that he's better than you. That's.
You know, I agree.
That's magnanimous.
It really is, and any sports person would never want to admit such a thing because no matter what sport you play, there's always something there that says no. I am the better, and I won't do it. But he says, look, you know, the kid is better than I am at the moment, so you can't argue with that. Do you want to play some birthdays, by the way? Do you want to do the birthdays thing?
Yeah, it'd be entirely blind for me.
OK, well, let's have a go.
Because I won't know who you're talking about.
Well, look, I will help you along. We'll see how we go. Now, that is a friend of mine. His name is Cliff Jones, and Cliff played in the double side for Spurs in 60-61. He won the FA Cup in 62 and the Cup Winners' Cup in 63 and the FA Cup in 67. The greatest Welsh winger. And I was at his birthday. I actually hosted his birthday.
He's 86.
You're right, you're on the right. But it was a big birthday party, and even the Welsh manager, Craig Bellamy, was there to pay tribute.
It was a big party, 90 then.
So you're going with 90?
Well, I'm going to go with 86 because it was my first guess.
90 is correct.
Well done, Dawn.
90 is correct.
Marvellous.
Happy birthday.
I quite like this game. Are there any more? Is that it?
Yes, I've got some more.
OK.
We want to go again?
Yeah.
OK, how about this one? OK. Good. Now, this is Pierre Gasly. Now, F1 driver with Alpine Renault, won the Italian Grand Prix. The only Grand Prix he's won was in 2020, so he's a current F1 driver. And, you know, they're getting younger. They're getting younger all the time, Michael. So how old is Pierre Gasly today?
He's 25.
25 for Gasly.
21.
29.
Oh.
Don't worry, we'll let that go. Let's go again. We've got two more.
You're both rubbish.
We've got two more. Now, Ray Mears, who's been on this station many times in the past. Yeah. Woodsman, bushcraft expert. Yeah. I always think that he must throw darts at Bear Grylls' picture because since Bear Grylls came along, you just don't see enough Mears as far as I'm concerned.
No, he's still in the woods himself,
for me, the survivalist, the king of the bushcraft. How old is Ray Mears?
So we have no clues about an activity at a certain time of life.
What's got to do with
he's been around for a few years. There he is.
He's 6.
Yeah, you're good. You're looking good. Yes, very good,
66.
Mike. 66.
I'm going to say 61.
61 is the correct answer, Dawn.
You are playing a blind.
Very good.
You've
already won.
My prize is that you have to tell me about your train secret.
Go on. What's your?
Survive. Listen. Well, let's go with one more. We got one more. Comedian. It's not a sporty person, although he's on sporty adverts. Chris Rock. Chris Rock.
Oh.
Stand-up comic, actor, American. You know what? I undercooked this by quite a bit, so maybe add a few more years.
He looks
maybe
a lot
you'd
younger
imagine.
than he is.
He absolutely does look younger, but then again, that's
42.
30 years ago. Yeah, I think I'm going to let you go again.
42.
Add a bit, and then add a bit more, and then.
Oh, really?
Yes. I think he must be coming up to 50.
You think he's coming up to 50?
Yeah.
Michael?
I'm still with 42.
No, go high. Go on.
47.
It's turning into play cards, right? 47. 60.
No.
60.
See, I got that one as well.
I want some of what he's having.
3-0.
Yeah, 60. He
That's
60.
3-0 to me.
Everyone's going, I'm hearing in my ear, are you sure? And I've got a feeling, did I do the maths right on this one?
Did you do the maths right?
I'm pretty sure.
37, you didn't do so.
All right, thank you very much.
At least there's not a 4 involved.
Even though I lost, good game.
Thank you very much. It's good fun, isn't it?
I'm happy to
about the
recognise
trains?
that you're the best in your sport.
About the trains?
Still to come, we will be going through the
Michael.
newspapers. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun,
By
here
train,
is the
possibly.
forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. A much duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Aaron McLean, the goal machine here, used to play for Peterborough United. You bagged loads of goals for them back in the day. But I've got a bone to pick with you, young man. You scored at the City ground against Nottingham Forest for, was it Hull City?
For Hull City, yeah.
Why did you do that?
Well, that was my job, unfortunately. I must say, that was actually one of my favourite goals.
Was it really?
Because I remember, obviously, playing at the City ground, unbelievable stadium, historic.
It is great.
So, and we beat you 1-0.
OK, no need to rubbish it. These sports clubs, whether it's football or rugby or whatever, should offer two alternatives, either a professional footballer, or if you don't quite make it, you can still go and play football at a lower level, but have a career as well, maybe be an electrician or a plumber.
100%. You know, listen, I've had multiple conversations with various different people, whether it's the PFA or whether it's clubs. Even players who do have careers, you know, there's so many that don't make it and don't quite make it to the level or only play at a lower level. There's so many that do have long careers, but once you come to the end of that, you've spent, you know, for me, I spent 20 years as a professional footballer. Once I finished playing, what do you then do for the rest of your life? You know, at 35, once you retire, you still have to have a purpose in life. Yeah. But I'd almost be starting from ground zero. I'm fortunate that I went into coaching and then went into the media.
That's good.
But for every one of me, there's hundreds that don't. And I've got so many friends who, I've got to say, you know, have really, really struggled on the, you know, mental health side.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because you go from, like, playing in stadiums, big stadiums, small stadiums, crowds, singing your name, and all that sort of stuff, that adulation, the buzz of winning games, and you know, the downs of losing games, and you go from that to sort of nothing when you finish. I mean, that's a big come down area.
It's a huge come down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Joining us to go through what's making the news, the former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire and the former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley. Charlie, nice to see you there. What have you got for us?
Thank you very much. Lovely to see you too. On
Thank you very much.
Stop it, you two. Get on with it, Charlie.
Good to see you.
God almighty. Hello, Scarlett. The boy.
Your story.
Boy.
It's true. Well, let's kick off, I suppose, front page of the Daily Mirror, which talks about Gino D'Acampo, that most viewers or may know from their TV screens. Presented a number of programmes, was a hit, I think, on ITV's programme this morning. Another celebrity caught in the headlines through sexual misconduct and inappropriate comments, allegations at this stage.
There's been an ITV probe. There's been a programme.
There has. So there's the
which
trouble...
the lawyers will have been all over.
Yes, yes. So there's it's the latest in a string of celebrities and TV personalities. So Greg Wallace at the BBC, Wynne, Evans, who was on Strictly Come Dancing, the Go Compare singer that has been taken off the tour for inappropriate comments. There's a question over, whenever we talk about these stories, whether it's the production company where complaints are made to, who are ultimately responsible, that have the duty of care to look into allegations where staff feel that there's anything that's inappropriate taking place by the talent or the celebrity, or ITV itself. And where there has been, obviously ITV have been in the headlines for a number of reasons when it comes to the duty of care. It is just another story about TV executives and TV bosses not looking after the people that might be on the set, that might be working behind the scenes, that feel as though the talent, and that's the celebrity or the presenter or anyone else, has some sort of advantage or power or authority that can act in such an inappropriate way against staff.
Scarlett, we hear this time and time again, don't we? We will hear it from viewers this morning. It's like, oh, they're men of a certain age, this is what they do, it's joking, it's banter. It is just banter. Sort of like, you know, get over it, girls, it is just a bit of banter. What do you say to that
Well,
argument?
I mean, they're talking about sexual assault. I don't think it is banter. And I think Charlie's absolutely right. I mean, if you're the talent, then you are more important. And they've looked at, I mean, you know, Russell Brand is somebody who's also come into it. And when the BBC did an investigation, they found that a lot of women didn't complain because they thought they wouldn't get anywhere. And that is the problem, is that these, particularly men, I know that Ellen DeGeneres did it in America as a woman, but particularly men think that they can do what they want because they're so well known that actually they are more important than the programme. And it's the thing about TV, actually, and it is about celebrities. And we have yet to. I mean, there will be others who are, you know. I mean, we all know about pop singers and the sort of groupies and everything.
I'm going to call time on that because it'd be nice to get on to another story.
Yeah,
but I have to say that in response, Gino D'Acampo's legal team has said Mr D'Acampo categorically denies his allegations of inappropriate sexual behaviour. And a separate response from ITV said that the broadcaster was not made aware of the original concerns in 2018, and they said ITV is completely committed to creating an environment where everyone is treated with respect and feels able to give of their best. We can categorically confirm that this kind of behaviour is not tolerated by ITV. So we've read that out. Scarlett, take us on to another subject.
Right, let's
talk about what we're wearing. Yes, I love this story.
This is a wonderful story. So the Navy has decided that women officers at formal occasions can wear saris. Now, obviously, this is because so that they don't have to wear dresses, they can wear saris instead. And I think this is lovely. I think it is, and the Daily Telegraph has got a wonderful picture on its front page of these women in saris. And they still wear mess jackets and they look incredibly smart, but that is what they're allowed to wear.
By the way, I'm not sure that this is only about women, is it? I think men may be allowed to wear different things as well. The debate is whether a uniform is a thing that emphasises that everyone is the same thing and they're all working together, and whether national dress is something that emphasises that everyone is different. That seems to be the debate. Charlie, what do you make of it?
I think that's right. I take a different view to Scout. I don't think it should be. I think uniform presents unity.
Says what it does on the tin.
And when you are together, and, you know, we have the whole debate every year about the poppy, you know, I don't think the poppy should be politicised or have any kind of, whether it's football attached to it or whether it's a particular, you know, the poppy symbolises one thing that we can all get behind because it's about service to our country, and the poppy obviously about the people that obviously lost their lives, but a uniform represents something that you are shoulder to shoulder, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, regardless of your race or sexual orientation, you are in it together, you are equalled, and you are fighting that cause that you're up against.
But this is only for formal dinners.
Yes.
Right? It's not... normally, you know, if you're marching along, if you're going to the cenotaph, if you're in uniform, this is only for formal dinners.
But where does it end? It's this DEI, it's this DEI mob that's, you know...
I don't know where it ends, but, I mean, it started long ago because, of course, as part of mess dress, some men will wear a kilt. So, I mean, that's an expression of national identity.
These Scots,
is it not?
honestly.
Well, Scots, Irish, possibly even Welsh. But, you know, kilts have been with us for a very long time. So I'm not quite sure that we are breaking new ground here. Anyway, Charlie Rayleigh and Scarlett McGrath, we'll see you later and hear from you later. But now we're coming up. Time for the weather with Alex D.
Contain yourselves.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine, temperature 6 or 7 degrees. That's pretty much across the board, but it will feel colder than that in the south because of the wind, because of the thick cloud, and because of the outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which likely to pep up a little bit through the afternoon. So quite dull and dank along the M4. Some of that wet weather will turn to snow across parts of Wales for a time through the evening and overnight. Again, mostly over the hills. It's dry and fine further north, though, through this evening. Pretty quickly, though, with those clear skies in western Scotland, those temperatures will be back down below freezing. But the cloud increasing across eastern Scotland, thickening up all the while further south with further rain and drizzle moving in. As I said, overnight we could see some snow flurries through parts of Wales. Any snow, though, that's going to stick is really only over the hills. The moors could see a little in the southwest also, but mostly at low levels, just rain. Cold temperatures, though, just about staying above freezing with that blanket of cloud for England and Wales, but a frost certainly likely in western Scotland to start the weekend. But again, the Highlands, the Western Isles, that's the place to be for sunshine on Saturday. A cracking day to come here tomorrow. Some brightness elsewhere, particularly in the west, Northern Ireland, parts of southwest England, but for a good chunk of England, Wales, southern Scotland, another fairly dull day to come tomorrow with rain and drizzle at times, particularly over the Midlands and southern England. The wind's a little lighter, though, here tomorrow.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Durham, the A19 is closed southbound from the Sheraton Junction to Ulverston after an accident with delays on the A179 towards Hartlepool as you divert. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 28 and 29 from Tingley to the M1, causing delays. Buses replaced trains between Manchester Victoria and Newton Le Willows, with all services through Eccles suspended because of an incident. The Mersey Ferry is suspended because of a technical problem. In Nottinghamshire, the A614 is closed off the A1 east of Worksop after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A594 is closed eastbound along St George's Way in Leicester after an accident. And in East Sussex, the A21 is blocked where a car hit a tree on London Road at Silver Hill, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We're giving you not 1, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I will.
Yes.
Good morning. A crisis for the Chancellor of the Exchequer as her plans for growth are dealt a major blow.
And Britain faces a new era of inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation as economic alarm bells begin to ring.
The Bank of England is painting a stark picture as it cuts the growth forecast in half and warns of bumpy times ahead.
We live in an uncertain world and the road ahead will have bump sides.
That's as Red Wall Labour MP Jo White warns the government is ignoring the North as she issues this challenge to the Chancellor.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North.
And a very big poll shock. Could we face a three-way tie at the next election? New polling reveals which cabinet ministers are most at risk of losing their seats as Reform UK continues to surge in the polls.
And peace by Easter, a leaked report has revealed President Trump's 100-day plan to end the war in Ukraine, but will he be able to achieve it?
A Roman holiday for the King and the Queen. The palace confirms new details for the upcoming state visit to Italy, with a trip to the Vatican and a meeting with His Holiness the Pope confirmed.
And TV chef accused Gino De Campo faces allegations of intimidating and inappropriate behaviour, claims he strongly denies.
OK, let's look at the sport this morning. Liverpool sweep Tottenham Hotspur aside to cruise into the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle next month. FA Cup fourth round weekend starts tonight. Ruud van Nistelrooy will return to Old Trafford with Leicester. And it may be a Super Bowl in New Orleans this weekend, but the rescue dog version, Puppy Bowl 21, has taken place.
A duller day for many today and feeling a lot colder in the south thanks to a brisk wind. One or two places, though, will still have some sunshine. Join me later to find out where.
It has just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Michael Portillo.
And I'm Dawn Needham. And this is GB News Breakfast. So thank you for joining us this Friday morning. Really appreciate your company. Remember, it's all about you, this show as well. It's not just us, even though we tend to think it is actually about us. gbnews.com/your say to have your comment and join in the chat, because it's a Friday morning. You can do whatever you want. And a few of you, I've just got to read these out because you love these, yeah. George, morning George, says, wow, Dawn and Michael, what a lovely surprise. Thank you very much.
That is very nice.
Yeah, And Barbara says, Dawn and Michael, a great double act, fun against the doom and gloom. They should give Starmer some personality lessons. And you're going to love this one in particular, Michael, right? OK, Camilla, yeah, hi. He's not the only one here, Camilla, by the way. Camilla says, really enjoying Portillo this morning. More, please.
Well, how very kind of you. Keep your messages coming in.
Your best friend?
One rose quite high in life, I think.
Your auntie Camilla? Oh, that Camilla. You know that Camilla?
Well, I've met. Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Her plans for growth have been dealt a major blow this week after a pretty disastrous forecast from the Bank of England yesterday.
Yeah, doom and gloom. Britain now faces a new era of rising inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation, with the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, warning Britain's bloated public sector is dragging the economy down.
And that
I think it's fair to say that we have seen an increase in public sector employment. We haven't seen a commensurate increase in measured public sector output.
And that comes after the Bank of England slashed its 2025 growth forecast in half to just 0.75 of a percentage point, with fears that the cost of living pressures are on the rise again, with inflation set to climb to 3.7% this year.
The bank said growth had been weaker than expected and raises questions over whether the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is representing anyone in Britain.
GB News' editor Christopher Hope sat down with the Labour MP for Bassett Law, Jo White, to discuss the angered Red Wall MP's response.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North, telling our story, because by telling a story, you're actually attracting inward investment and you're attracting new businesses. So come to the North, please, Rachel. You are Leeds MP.
Correct.
tell our story, and we have a good one, and where we want to invest and where we want to get the new skills. And I'll be clapping loudly from the sidelines.
Indeed, a lot of anger out there. We're joined now by GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, good to see you. Looking fabulous this morning. Catherine, front pages again, not good news for Rachel Reeves. You know, we've talked about all the percentages, but for most people, they're percentages, too many figures at this time of morning. But basically, Rachel Reeves isn't doing very well by the sounds of things.
Well, no, and they promised change, they promised growth. Of course, growth is always going to take time, but if you think back to her making that speech just over a week ago, trying to sound really upbeat, really positive, making all these announcements for big infrastructure projects, a lot of which will be welcomed. But first of all, as Joe White said, pretty much concentrated in the south and London and the southeast. All right, an airport in Sheffield and football stadium being, redone in Manchester, but nothing for the north. And the things that have been announced are going to take ages. And what we're seeing now, of course, is people are feeling the pinch now. People want to feel better off now. That's all going to take years and years, and it's clear that the decisions that the government made in that budget have had a direct impact. Now, sure, they had a very difficult inheritance. There wasn't much money around, but, choosing to put that £25 billion on national insurance for employers, that has directly had an impact, hasn't it? Because it's raised businesses' costs, it's made them less likely to invest, less likely to hire, particularly lower paid workers. And now, we've got a situation. Inflation is rising. Growth forecasts are halved. If we don't get the growth, we don't get the money coming in, we don't have the money for public services. She's been on a big spending spree. She's put up taxes and, she says she doesn't want to have more tax rises. But it's very unclear how they are going to stick to their fiscal rules.
How are Labour members of Parliament reacting to this? Are they angry with Rachel Reeves? One of the problems the government has here is there's no suggestion at all that the Chancellor's policy is different from the Prime Minister's policy. So even if you got to the point of shifting your Chancellor, sacking your Chancellor, the buck still stops with the Prime Minister. He raised no objection to any of the changes that you've mentioned.
Well, yes, and, they're holding very firm, and things like the winter fuel allowance and the inheritance tax for farmers. These are not the sort of things that the hundreds of new Labour MPs came into Parliament expecting to have to defend. This is the absolute opposite of what many Labour MPs would think that a Labour government would do to hit millions of pensioners, with taking away their winter fuel allowance. And, and with the farmers, you can see the argument for why they wanted to tackle these things. But the way that they've gone about them has provoked this huge backlash. And, a lot of Labour MPs are deeply, deeply unhappy. They came in, many of them have got tiny, tiny majorities, and they're very aware that for all the talk of a decade of national renewal, if they don't make people feel better off and soon, they're going to get punished, aren't they?
Well, it looks like they're being punished already. If you look at the polls, I mean, we know polls are polls. They're not 100% reliable, obviously not. But the latest poll from Find Out Now, Reform UK 29% ahead of both Labour on 25, Conservatives on 18. I mean, it's certainly that we've heard about the anger in the Red Wall, which is one of those areas that could quite easily just completely go Reform.
Yeah, and Labour got this huge landslide, didn't they? Largely on people being really cross with the Conservatives. They promised change, they promised growth, they promised people to feel better off. OK, this stuff is difficult, but at the moment, it's not going well. So now people are thinking, well, we've tried the Tories, we're not happy with Labour either, where do we go? Well, look, Reform. OK, it's easy. They've not been in government. It's easy to shout from the sidelines what all the problems are. But so much disillusionment and people increasingly looking to Reform and thinking, well, they are coming up with proposals, unlike the Conservatives. We heard Kemi Badenoch's plan for immigration yesterday. But Nigel Farage...
workers, wasn't it? I mean, basically.
Well, yes, and that may bear fruit. But the problem is it doesn't necessarily address people coming in. What about the numbers of people coming in the first place? Nearly up to 1 million. So people, I think, are looking at reform, and I've been to a couple of reform things just in the last week, and what's really struck me, you know, I've been going to reform things for years, and they used to be in rooms, not many press, not much energy, not much attention, and it's totally changed. You know, Nigel Farage is getting all the attention. The press conference the other day about the council elections being cancelled, OK, that's bad for reform, but they've used it to their advantage, talking about democracy being denied. They're like catnip. The press, the photographers can't get enough of them.
And anecdotally, I think, you know, I heard a lot of Conservative voters saying at the last general election, we're going to vote reform once because we want to punish the Conservatives. But some of them are sticking there, and that's what's coming out in the polls.
Indeed. Catherine Forster, thank you very much
so much
for joining us at the moment. Right, OK. Which brings us on to our very own poll, which is one worth taking part in. A poll of the day asking, do you agree with Red Wall MPs? Is there a southern bias in government? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show. And for all our latest polls, news and indeed how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
President Trump is expected to present a long-anticipated plan to end the war in Ukraine at the Munich Security Conference next week.
However, a leaked copy of the plan has raised eyebrows in Ukraine and among European leaders, while risking the success of peace negotiations.
According to the leaked plan, President Trump is hoping for a ceasefire by Easter.
We're joined now by former head of counter-terror at Ministry of Defence, Major Chip Chapman. Chip, thank you very much for joining us today. OK, now, on the face of it, Chip, this sounds a positive thing. Donald Trump has hit the ground running. He said he was going to get peace in the Ukraine. It sounds like he's really heading in that direction. What do you make of it?
Well, he first said on the 8th of December last year, when the Assad regime fell, that there should be a ceasefire and negotiations immediately. Obviously, that didn't happen. Now, the first enabler will be a ceasefire. And then you need to know the framework position of each of the antagonists or protagonists, however you want to use the phrase, to see how you can negotiate. Now, the object of war is a better peace, but the problem is from whose perspective and whose rules will apply. Now, I don't think there's anything in the sort of leaked plan, which isn't a plan, it's a framework really, which isn't negotiable. The problem is I don't really see that Russia wants to negotiate at the moment. So, for example, the leverage which Trump thinks he has is both aid volumes of weapons, humanitarian aid, the oil prices, which he says that he would like to get oil prices down to $45 a barrel to disrupt the Russian economy. They're currently 75, and tighter sanctions. Now, Peskov, the Moscow communicator for Putin, has said that the price of oil is irrelevant to the continuation of war. And Lavrov, the foreign minister, has said that a ceasefire is a road to nowhere. So I think what Trump is really seeing is that the impediment to peace is not Zelensky, it's Putin. And bringing him to the table is the real problem.
Chip, I'm rather astonished by what we've seen so far, but there seems to be no guarantee of security for Ukraine that has emerged at this point. I mean, that does look like a rather lopsided kind of deal to me.
That's not strictly true. I think what it says is that there should be neutrality in terms of Ukraine not joining NATO, but that there might also be security guarantees for Ukraine. Now, America has a history of giving security guarantees which have been enforceable. So, for example, that's what they gave to West Germany after the Second World War. It's also what they gave to South Korea after the Korean War, which still endures. Now, I think Zelensky could get to a position where he would push any membership of NATO to the right. What I don't think he would push to the right is the need for any security guarantees, because Russia's grand strategic objectives have not changed, and that is to regain lost territory and spheres of influence.
Do you think, I mean, we were interviewing in the first hour Kira Rudik, a Ukrainian politician, and the one thing she kept saying, Chip, is, yeah, OK, this might be fine now, but who is going to give us that guarantee that Russia will not do this again in 5-10 years' time? I mean, she does have a point, doesn't she?
Yeah, and there's two aspects of this plan which play into that. The first one is the security guarantees. And the second one is this notion of a peacekeeping force in Ukraine itself. Now, there's been talk of numbers up to 100,000 on that. Now, again, from a Putin perspective, that would seem completely unacceptable, because one of the things he's always said is that the expansion of NATO is something which he's always feared. That may be utterly wrong, but that's what he said. So what you do by that plan is bring the people into Ukraine, French, British peacekeepers who you always wanted to keep out because they're in NATO. That would seem to be something that he's achieved, which he never wanted to achieve. That is not something that he's going to be allowing in negotiations.
Chip Chapman, thank you very much for joining us. This is a developing story. It'll be interesting to get your views and others in the coming days.
Thank you, Chip. Yeah, if you want to have your say on that, what you've heard Chip say, what you heard our Kira say in the first hour about how she's worried about what Ukraine looks like going forward. And if you're, more importantly, lots of you already get in touch, how much money is it going to cost us? You know, how much money is it going to cost the EU, America and us here to keep that peace in Ukraine? And are you willing to pay it? gbnews.com/your say.
Let's have a look at some other stories which are coming into the newsroom.
OK, celebrity chef Gino D'Acampo has been accused of sexually inappropriate behaviour following an ITV News investigation. Dozens of people have come forward with allegations against him, describing his behaviour as unacceptable, distressing and horrendous.
Hannah, whose identity we're protecting, worked with Gino D'Acampo in 2011 on a photo shoot for a high-profile magazine. She told us she was shocked when he made a highly sexualized comment to her.
The TV chef, who has appeared on the likes of This Morning and Celebrity Juice, faces allegations spanning 12 years, all of which he denies.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order, as we've just been discussing, sanctioning the international court. He's accusing it of illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America and its close ally, Israel. The measure places financial and visa restrictions on individuals and their families who assist in ICC investigations of American citizens.
The public is being invited to suggest names for the next Archbishop of Canterbury following the resignation of Justin Welby. His replacement will be the 106th appointment to the role. Candidates must be aged at least 30 and can be submitted to the Crown Nominations Commission, which is the body charged with nominating the new Archbishop.
Well, interesting stories there coming in. The Ukraine situation, I mean, lots of you have been getting in touch about that, asking how much is it going to cost the UK? I mean, at the moment we seem to be funding a stalemate. So
I would also be interested to hear from viewers who have a connection with Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland.
Yeah.
How do they feel about Putin effectively getting away with seizing 20% of Ukrainian territory?
Which is what it boils down to,
Which is what it boils down to.
Yeah, and where will he stop?
And the warning is not just that Ukraine might be attacked again, but that other countries might be attacked again.
No, exactly. Where will he stop? And how do you feel about Trump getting involved? This is the interesting thing. I mean, regardless of what you think about Trump's politics, he has hit the ground running, hasn't he? He really has.
He's changed the world in 10 days.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of it will actually happen is another thing, but he's talking the talk.
Time for the weather with Alex Deakin.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine, temperature 6 or 7 degrees. That's pretty much across the board, but it will feel colder than that in the south because of the wind, because of the thick cloud, and because of the outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which are likely to pep up a little bit through the afternoon. So quite dull and dank along the M4. Some of that wet weather will turn to snow across parts of Wales for a time through the evening and overnight. Again, mostly over the hills. It's dry and fine further north, though, through this evening. Pretty quickly, though, with those clear skies in western Scotland, those temperatures will be back down below freezing. But the cloud increasing across eastern Scotland, thickening up all the while further south with further rain and drizzle moving in. As I said, overnight we could see some snow flurries through parts of Wales. Any snow, though, that's going to stick is really only over the hills. The moors could see a little in the southwest also, but mostly at low levels, just rain. Cold temperatures, though, just about staying above freezing with that blanket of cloud for England and Wales, but a frost certainly likely in western Scotland to start the weekend. But again, the Highlands, the Western Isles, that's the place to be for sunshine on Saturday. A cracking day to come here tomorrow. Some brightness elsewhere, particularly in the west, Northern Ireland, parts of southwest England, but for a good chunk of England, Wales, southern Scotland, another fairly dull day to come tomorrow with rain and drizzle at times, particularly over the Midlands and southern England. The wind's a little lighter, though, here tomorrow.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We are giving you 2 chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 amazing prize bundles to be won. Each bundle contains a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store, and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Fancy your chances of being one of the 2 winners? Here's all the details that you need.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not 1, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5.
Ruskin was a very considerable polymath, an artist as well as many other things. So, do you know why it was submitted for reappraisal? Was there a bit of a suspicion that it had been misidentified?
No, as you say, you know, it's a service that Christie's offer. You can submit an artwork that you have, so anyone can submit it and request an estimate, and then the auction house's appraisal service allows you space as well to describe it and ask for evaluation. And Christie's sort of looked at it behind the sheet of dirty old glass and recognised a sort of Turner-esque mood and feel and ambience about it. And because there was this close relationship between Ruskin and Turner, which is fascinating, we'll come on to that shortly, but they sort of felt, well, the brushstrokes are very strong, the line is very economic, and the colour of the palette seems to be rather Turner-esque. And then they called in a specialist paper historian who confirmed that actually the paper that was used was one that Turner favoured himself. So yes, it was originally considered to be by Ruskin, but then we discovered something more magnificent. And don't forget, what's really interesting, now it's for sale. The lucky buyer is not just buying a picture. The lucky buyer is buying a life story, a relationship that actually changed the course of art history because of the relationship between Ruskin and Turner themselves.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. His Majesty the King, Her Majesty the Queen will host actor Stanley Tucci at a formal dinner this evening at Highgrove in celebration of slow food and slow fashion.
I have no idea what that actually means. It comes as new details emerge of the King and Queen's visit to Italy in early April 2025, where they will join Pope Francis in celebrating the 2025 Jubilee year and will carry out engagements in Rome and Ravenna. That's how you pronounce it.
Joining us now is former royal correspondent Jenny Bond. Jenny.
Good morning.
Good morning
Morning.
to you. From an earlier interview, I was getting the impression that perhaps from the point of view of His Majesty the King, the visit to the Vatican is the one that will excite him because religion is a subject that really interests him. He's the head of the Church of England. The Pope is the head of the Church of Rome. And then he'll visit Italy, but maybe there'll be, I don't know, less emotion involved in going to Italy as far as the King is concerned. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think this is very much about going to the Vatican. It's a Jubilee year for the Roman Catholic Church. They have a Jubilee every 25 years. And the last Jubilee year was attended by the late Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. So Charles is going to go there. But as you say, he is a very spiritual man. Religion runs very deep in his soul. Faith, all faiths run very deep in his soul. And I think particularly, as he gets older and suffering with cancer as he is, he's probably reflected more on the religious side of life. So it will be very meaningful for him to meet the Pope again. He's met him before. This is his 18th visit to Italy, but he has met this particular Pope before. So he and Camilla were set off, and it's probably going to coincide with their 20th wedding anniversary. And there's a bit of a symmetry to that, really, because their own wedding in 2005 had to be postponed by a day or two because of the death of the then Pope. So anyway, there are worse places to spend your anniversary than in Rome.
Absolutely. Jenny, do we know how long they're going to be out there for?
No, the pilots haven't said, but I think this will be a pretty short trip. They had this very, very long trip to Australia and Samoa earlier in the year. And although the King was said to be really buoyed by that at the end of last year, it has to be said that it probably took its toll, and it certainly probably took its toll on Camilla. She's no spring chicken. Neither of them is a spring chicken. And she got pneumonia after that. So I think we're going to see some royal visits, as in the past, but shorter ones.
Is there really any business to be done by their Majesties with the Italians as opposed to the Vatican?
Well, you be the diplomat more than I, really, Michael. But I mean, the palace has put out the usual statement that bilateral relations are extremely important and relations with Italy are extremely important. I'm not sure of the truth of that, but I do know that the royals do carry soft power wherever they go. And just think of William meeting Trump quite recently. He was massively impressed. People are impressed by our royal family. It takes a lot to impress people, but generally the royals carry quite a lot of kudos with them, and trade follows, goodwill follows. So they do carry soft power, and it'll be important in Italy.
And this is the thing, Jen, it's interesting you mentioned William's meeting with Trump in Paris, wasn't it, at the reopening of Notre Dame? They're only meant to spend a short period of time and end up chatting for 45 minutes. So the royals do carry a very important role here in international relations.
They really do, and I've seen it around the world over decades. I've done this job so long. And I think many of the trade agreements which are signed and trumpeted afterwards obviously probably going to happen anyway, but especially in the days of the Royal Yacht Britannia, people used to love to go aboard, and a lot of trade was done there. So, yeah, they carry quite a lot of fairy dust with them.
Dawn and I were debating earlier the pronunciation of Ravenna, and it just made me think. But when I went to Ravenna, I seem to remember there are some marvellous sort of Byzantine mosaics there, so quite ancient and rather wonderful sights. And actually, Their Majesties are pretty good tourists, aren't they? Like the rest of us, they like to see special things.
Charles will absolutely revel in Ravenna, I'm sure. He'll love all that. And Camilla too, actually. I think probably people didn't know about Camilla before she became queen, that she's a very literary person. She's a bookworm and much more intellectual, actually, than people perhaps imagine. And I'm sure the conversation at the dinner at Highgrove will be wonderful. Are you going? Michael, are you going, Dawn?
Am I going to Highgrove? No, I seem to have been missed off the guest list on this occasion.
Yeah, I'll be going to watch football instead, Jenny. Come on, you know me. And we weren't debating how to pronounce Ravenna. You were telling me how to pronounce it. That's how it works here. Come on. Jenny Bond, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Always a pleasure to see you. OK, still to come, we will be joined by Paul Coity to go through all of the sport, including Tottenham's result. That's next. This is UB News with him, Michael, who talks posh, and me, Dawn. See you soon.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M8 in Edinburgh is closed eastbound between junctions 2 and 1 from the M9 to the Edinburgh City bypass at Hermiston Gate after a lorry caught fire causing queues in County Durham. The A19 is closed southbound from the Sheraton junction to Wolverston after an accident with delays on the A179 towards Hartlepool as you divert. Now, buses replaced trains between Newton and Willows and both Manchester Piccadilly and Manchester Victoria, with trains unable to run through Eccles because of an incident. Mersey Ferry suspended because of a technical problem. In Nottinghamshire, the A614 is closed off the A1 Eastern Worksop after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A594 is closed eastbound along St George's Way in Leicester after an accident. And in East Sussex, the A21 is blocked in both directions when a car hit a tree on London Road at Silver Hill, causing delays.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
This is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
The Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time to go through all the latest sports news, and Paul Coity is back with us.
I'll do it one more time. Liverpool beat Spurs 4-0. I know, but you know what? I've got to tell you, and I would advise everybody else that is a Spurs fan to maybe do this job because it's kind of closure. So I feel as if it's cathartic to be able to discuss it, and then I feel better about it afterwards.
It's therapy.
Do you think they'd all fit in the studio?
I think probably we could give it a go. Everybody should have a little sports round somewhere. It's like one of those water cooler moments, and everybody just talks, and you get it off your chest, and then you move on. So Ange Postecoglou, the manager, he probably feels the same way. You know, he's had to talk to the press about it. He's had to discuss it. Whether he enjoys it as much as I do, I think is doubtful. But he's saying that, you know, we've got to move on and play Aston Villa in the FA Cup.
That's all very well,
Sunday.
but you were saying earlier that the fans don't know whom to blame.
It's a tricky...
Do you know whom to blame?
No, it's hard.
Why don't you spread the blame liberally then, cause as much trouble as possible?
Yes, OK. Well, I would never dream of doing such a thing. Let's have a look at Ange anyway. This is Ange probably down here, probably is where he'll be, talking after the game 4-0 to Liverpool in the Carabao Cup.
It's disappointing. It was a great opportunity for us tonight to get to a final. We didn't take that opportunity. We didn't give ourselves a chance to take the opportunity, which is probably more disappointing. But, you know, ultimately it's an opportunity for further learning and an opportunity for us to kind of atone for that by making amends and with a strong performance on Sunday.
I think the thing is, Michael, when we looked at the game yesterday, the players did not do well. It's when you expect everybody to step up, you think this is such an important game. It just wasn't happening.
This is the problem.
Wasn't happening.
But this is the problem a lot of teams have got, right? You've got great players. Why are they not playing?
I don't know.
Is it Ange?
I don't know. We just don't know.
The buck has to stop somewhere.
Well, the buck always has to stop somewhere, and you think, I know that some people have blamed the board, some people have blamed Ange, some people have blamed the players. In fact, most people have been blaming me for the whole situation.
Actually,
so I don't really know.
I
think all I could do is... Can I blame you, Michael? Can I hold you responsible for this?
Do you know what I was struck by? Because I know nothing about sport and a tiny bit about politics. The way the language of politics has entered sport. This is an opportunity for us to learn. What an extraordinary thing to say.
I wonder, it's funny you should say that because I wonder whether it's vice versa. I wonder whether politics are using actually the words of sport these days because, let's face it, it's all about winning and losing, and then you're always going to hear the same phrases over and over again. So the FA Cup is this weekend. That's we're at the fourth round now. Now, and we love a giant killing. This is the game. This is always the FA Cup, and this is what they always call the magic of the FA Cup. Orient. Now, Orient became Leyton Orient and then back to Orient again. So I don't know where we stand on Orient now, but Orient are going to be playing at Brisbane Road at home to Manchester City. Now, what a game that's going to be.
Oh, brilliant.
League One, everybody... And it's one of those situations where, unless you're a Manchester City fan, everybody would want Orient to win, although maybe if you're a West Ham.
But this is the magic. Well, no, this is the magic of the FA Cup.
It is.
I mean, Orient, East London side, if you're not quite sure where they are. I mean, it's like, you know, this is going to be such a great game. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can't lose, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Orient reached the semi-final back in 1978. That's as far as it ain't going to happen this time, but... You know, and the way Manchester City have been, it might not suit them. I think we're probably certain that Manchester City will win, but that's... See, there we are.
Yeah. Oh, very
exciting.
Just
like politics. It's that way you kind of do know what's going on.
Well, it's like Reform UK, isn't it? There's a party with only 5 seats and suddenly they're giant killers.
There we are. 6 nations, Italy versus Wales, England versus France, Scotland versus Ireland. It's the Super Bowl on Sunday as well in America. You know, and when you talk about eyes glazing over with some sports, I love every sport. I really, truly do. But I've got to tell you, when it comes to NFL and American football, I don't know whether I just jumped in late on this. I remember when it came to the UK in 1982 and my friend Nicky Horn hosted it on Channel 4 when Channel 4 went in the air. Everything, maybe I just missed that bit. But it's so hugely popular in here as well, but it's just not my sport.
Just not your thing.
It's all about the halftime entertainment, though, isn't it?
It is.
The superstar acts they get on there.
Kendrick Lamar will be halftime. We played some of the adverts as well, some of the ads that are going to be on, because they cost $8 million for an advert to put in the Super Bowl, because that's where you get all the stars. There was Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan did a When Harry Met Sally thing, which is going to go out, which we played the other day. But this is something that's in its 21st year, and this is the Puppy Bowl, which is everybody's.
I want to see the Puppy
Let's
Bowl.
Have a look at the Puppy Bowl. 142 rescue puppies from 80 shelters and 40 states. By the way, I hope that was a toy that dog was eating. Is that a real dog? Is that dog alive?
Yeah.
When I say 142 rescue puppies, that's now 141 rescue puppies by the look of things. My goodness me. This is supposed to be cute. This is not... Oh, what is he doing? He's pulling the scarf off. This is supposed to be cute. Now I'm getting very nervous about the whole thing. There we are. Anyway, there's even special needs dogs, that even the referees getting involved.
We'll
so they
have the
do this every year.
It's
a free-for-all, but they're looking for homes for these lovely dogs.
Aww.
And there are some cute ones there, and most of them are generally quite friendly, and some like to escape.
That one doesn't look that friendly.
I think my money's on that champion that we just saw in action.
You think so? Yeah.
So when does this happen, Quatey? This is in America,
This
is
is
it?
happening in the States, and the thing is, they do this every year around the Super Bowl, and the idea is to get... Look at that, it's a cute dog. And the idea is to get homes for rescue puppies, because obviously there's too many dogs around. It happens over here. Oh, look at this.
Oh, no.
I'm a sucker for a dog.
Oh, no,
Look
no,
at that.
snogging, no tongues.
Oh,
no, that's wrong.
Oh, no, but that's what dogs look like. Licky dogs there.
For those viewers who have joined us now, you've been watching the sport.
Yes. Which
could have fooled me.
Snogging with tongues.
Listen, I got to tell you, Michael, it's sports and pastimes is what I'm the head of. So we'll take that as pastimes.
Sports and puppies. Thank you very much, Quatey.
You like some puppies, don't you?
Still to come, we're going to be going through the newspapers, but first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And then fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop. You need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself.
GB News, the People's Channel.
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, OK, welcome back. Thank you very much for stop looking at me like that. Thank you very much for joining. Here's Michael, I'm Dawn, and we are now going to read newspapers out loud with Scarlett Maguire and the lovely Charlie Rowley. Right, who wants to kick off with this one then? Go on, Scarlett.
OK, I'm going to be really serious about Gaza, because we all know that Donald Trump wants to raze Gaza to the ground.
It already is.
And well, that's what he says, but actually there are an awful lot of Palestinians living on tiny... I mean, they're living in these ghastly sort of... you see an empty... You see these flats that have been bombed, and then you'll see a family sort of camping in them. It's quite incredible. Anyway, he says it's over. We're going to raise it. We're going to get rid of all the Palestinians, and we're going to have a Riviera, and which is really awful. I mean, you know, so where do the Palestinians go? And he says, oh, you know, it'll be a very, very nice place, but no country will have them.
He did say that it would create thousands of jobs, and presumably Palestinians would be able to get those jobs. But
they'd have to come back to do the jobs.
In Gaza at the moment, you have a lot of young men in particular who are trained only to hate and to kill. And here was a vision, which you can criticise, but here was a vision of something different, which was, surprise, surprise, based on free enterprise, based on a resort, based on hotels and restaurants, the things that are normal in the rest of the world, where young men in particular could be employed and have a future which isn't about carrying a machine gun.
I mean, I think, to be fair, Michael, before Hamas, the Hamas militants have been a problem in Gaza, but there were an awful lot of young men who were working, right? And an awful lot of people have since been killed. But the frightening... So this is all happening where we don't know where the Palestinians are going to go, because he said he wants them to go to a nice place where they'll be safer. But then Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, who obviously is very, very keen on this, says that he's going to get the Israeli Defence Force to make plans for the Palestinians to go voluntarily. And that is really quite frightening, because you think, how do you get the Palestinians... All of the Palestinians who've been interviewed in Gaza say, we're not going anywhere, we're staying here, even in this wasteland, and how do you get them to leave voluntarily, particularly when Egypt, which is the bordering country where you can get through to, is saying absolutely no, and Jordan is saying no.
I just want to pick up on that point and bring you in, Charlie. I mean, this is the interesting point here. I mean, Trump backtracked on it slightly and said, I didn't mean to get rid of them, they can come back and live there in this new rebuilt country. But it's interesting that no other countries want to take the Palestinians if they are encouraged or forced out of Gaza. And sort of like, you know, if Trump is saying they can go back and live in this rebuilt place, what is the issue?
So I think you're right. I mean, Jordan, I think, was already taken about 2 million Palestinians anyway in terms of previous conflicts. So, you know, Jordan might rightly be able to say, sorry, we're full, we can't take any more.
Not a huge country, yeah.
Not a huge
and they've got a lot of Syrians.
And indeed. So I think, look, I think Donald Trump was speaking clearly as someone that's worked in real estate and seen a massive, you know, site that's obviously been brought to the ground through all those bombings and all the atrocities that have taken place. And I think he's someone that isn't, obviously, we know as a skilled diplomat, but is just saying probably what a lot of people are thinking, which is a conflict in a region has taken place for far too long. There's been far too many deaths on both sides. Obviously, the most recent killings instigated by a terrorist attack on the 7th of October. But now is a time that everybody can just live in peace and harmony by having proper homes, proper water, proper heating, a civilised way of society, which many Palestinians have not had for far too long. And when there's continued conflict, we can just clear it out, move things on, and live in peace.
This is quite a sombre topic. Charlie, why don't you cheer us up by talking about Shakespeare? Indeed, you can recite some if you'd like to. What's the issue with Shakespeare?
Well, Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble.
That is the only Shakespeare I know.
Hubble, bubble, toil and trouble. But anyway, yeah.
I sound correct, I'm sorry. I must do better. But even with 3 witches around a cauldron, was not enough when I learned that at school, clearly wrongly. I didn't need a trigger warning to tell me that I might be faced on the first page of the Scottish play Macbeth that I was going to be talking about or in front of 3 witches. And now we're hearing a number of Shakespeare plays are having these trigger warnings attached to them. It's
Where is this happening?
The Tempest.
Is this when they're performed, or is it the
No, this is the University of West of England.
Exactly, yes.
Where so it's for students studying it. It's not for people going to the plays. I am not sticking up for a minute. I do have to say that when I saw a film of Macbeth, I mean, I did have terrible nightmares because it was done so brilliantly.
And would you have been helped by a trigger warning? I mean, I can give a trigger warning.
Oh.
If you go to see a Shakespeare tragedy, it's going to be grim. There's going to be a lot of killing. People's eyes are going to be squeezed out, limbs are going to be hacked off.
You'll have a stage full of dead bodies at the end.
Most people will die during the course of the stage
If you're enjoying your breakfast at the moment, while Michael Portillo is talking about eyes being squeezed out, this is a trigger warning.
I'm giving a trigger warning.
Yeah.
But it goes as far as, I mean, the Tempest, which, is quite obviously going to be about some sort of weather condition, taking a turn. and there is a trigger warning attached to say that there's a storm, so if you've been, I don't know, you might have experienced some sort of turbulence on a plane, or you might have been on a ferry across the channel and it got a bit choppy, and you might have that lived experience that now, if you go and turn up to the theatre to see The Tempest, there's a trigger warning, or certainly at the West of England in Bristol.
What have they done with the Midsummer Night's Dream and Bottom?
Well. Oh, yes. People being turned into animals. I mean, that's simply appalling, yes? It's dreadful, dreadful. Let's get one more thing in. There's something about boffins.
Right. So there's a wonderful... all of us very lazy people who can sit on sofas...
Stop, Maguire, you are not lazy. Stop it.
Who can sit on sofas for hours on end are being rewarded because there's a lovely piece of research that says... Basically, people who sit down live longer, which is not because all these people who go, oh, I just do this, I have to do this all the time, I have to do this all the time. And I just feel, no, let's relax. And so we live longer, don't we, Charlie?
It can add on an extra 10 years.
But hold on, Charlie.
You don't believe this for a minute, do you?
Charlie goes to the gym. But hold on, doesn't this go across every other piece of advice where keeping physically active is better for you?
Yes, it does.
So what's right?
Well, because in this study, you're right, it also says that actually watching sports is better than playing it. Now, I draw the line. There. I think physical exercise and activity is obviously very good for you. I mean, even probably playing Lego is probably more of a...
Well, except, the homophobic problem with Lego.
Yes. Yeah, if you missed earlier, Lego is, by the way, homophobic. You missed that. But you can catch up, by the way, on the YouTube channel.
But Charlie, I mean, this story is about you, isn't it? Because you go around studios giving your opinions, and you're very often sitting on a sofa. So you must be very, very clear about this problem.
And I'm a beacon of health. It serves me no end of health benefits being on this desk.
There clearly are some exceptions to the rule.
But one bit of info. It says that having a, I think there's a cross between lazy and having a good night's sleep, which is helpful. Now, obviously, I'm sure we've all had a good night's sleep, but there is no sleep I would rather not have if it allows me to come here and be on your breakfast show.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm not sure we'll ever have another one after this. Charlie Rowley and Scarlett Maguire, thank you so very much for joining us. Definitely not lazy. Oh, let's get the weather, shall we? What's it doing?
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. I imagine duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine, temperature 6 or 7 degrees. That's pretty much across the board, but it will feel colder than that in the south because of the wind, because of the thick cloud, and because of the outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which are likely to pep up a little bit through the afternoon. So quite dull and dank along the M4. Some of that wet weather will turn to snow across parts of Wales for a time through the evening and overnight. Again, mostly over the hills. It's dry and fine further north, though, through this evening. Pretty quickly, though, with those clear skies in western Scotland, those temperatures will be back down below freezing. But the cloud increasing across eastern Scotland, thickening up all the while further south with further rain and drizzle moving in. As I said, overnight we could see some snow flurries through parts of Wales. Any snow, though, that's going to stick is really only over the hills. The moors could see a little in the southwest also, but mostly at low levels, just rain. Cold temperatures, though, just about staying above freezing with that blanket of cloud for England and Wales, but a frost certainly likely in western Scotland to start the weekend. But again, the Highlands, the Western Isles, that's the place to be for sunshine on Saturday. A cracking day to come here tomorrow. Some brightness elsewhere, particularly in the west, Northern Ireland, parts of southwest England, but for a good chunk of England, Wales, southern Scotland, another fairly dull day to come tomorrow with rain and drizzle at times, particularly over the Midlands and southern England. The wind's a little lighter, though, here tomorrow.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M8 in Edinburgh, there's a lane closed eastbound between junctions 2 and 1 from the M9 to the Edinburgh City bypass at Hermiston Gate after a lorry caught fire. It's taking over an hour in queues from junction 3 at Livingston, on delays too on the A71 and A89, and there are queues backing up along the M9 towards the M8. Now in County Durham, the A19 is closed southbound from the Sheraton Junction to Wolverston after an accident, with delays on the A179 towards Hartlepool as you divert. Buses replace trains between Newton the Willows and both Manchester Victoria and Manchester Piccadilly, with trains not running through Eccles because of an incident. The Mersey ferry suspended because of a technical problem. In Nottinghamshire, the A614 is closed off the A1 east of Worksop after an accident, and in Leicestershire, the A594 is closed eastbound along St George's Way in Leicester after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/.
It happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very good morning to you. Crisis for the Chancellor of the Exchequer as her plans for growth are dealt a major blow.
Britain faces a new era of inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation as economic alarm bells begin to ring.
Earlier, we spoke with the Liberal Democrat MP, Daisy Cooper, who had this to say.
The government is absolutely right to say that growth is its #1 priority, but the government's measures simply don't stack up. And the announcements just yesterday and the warnings that growth is going to be much lower than previously forecasted should be a real wake-up call for the Chancellor.
change. They promised growth. Precious little sign of that at the moment. Lots of things going in the wrong direction for the Chancellor, and by the extension, all of us.
Meanwhile, Red Wall Labour MP Jo White warns the government is ignoring the North as she issues this challenge to the Chancellor.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North.
And there's a very big poll shock. Could we face a tie, a three-way tie at the next election? New polling reveals which cabinet ministers are most at risk of losing their seats as Reform UK continues to surge ahead in the polls.
And peace by Easter. A leaked report has revealed President Trump's 100-day plan to end the war in Ukraine. But will he be able to achieve it?
A Roman holiday for their Majesties, the King and Queen. The palace confirms new details for the upcoming state visit to the Vatican and to Italy. The royal couple will be meeting His Holiness the Pope.
And TV chef accused. Gino D'Acampo faces allegations of intimidating and inappropriate behaviour. Claims he strongly denies.
A duller day for many today and feeling a lot colder in the south thanks to a brisk wind. One or two places, though, will still have some sunshine. Join me later to find out where.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Michael Portillo.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast. So good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your company. Yeah, congratulations. You made it for Friday morning. It is indeed a Friday, a mad weekend coming up, hopefully. No, by the way, for those of you asking, I haven't put Michael on the naughty step.
You have a cushion.
I have a cushion.
Which I do not.
I am cheating. There is only one cushion. Cutbacks, you know, Rachel Reeves insist. So I've got the cushion. So Michael is taking it like a man and just sitting on the chair. So it's not on the naughty step, although it has to be said you have been quite naughty.
Do you know what I'm doing later today? I am taking a train.
Can we say this?
I'm taking a train.
Well, what a surprise.
From King's Cross to the north. Now, why is that interesting? Because they've said now that at King's Cross, they're going to take away the platform announcement of the train 3 minutes before it leaves. Can you imagine the chaos? So,
why?
Apparently this has stopped people racing for their train. So if you give them no information at all, apparently they won't race for their train. Well, that's against human nature, isn't it? In fact, people will now be racing around the station looking.
It's going to be
for their
absolute chaos.
Anyway, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, her plans for growth have been dealt a major blow this week. A really pretty bad forecast from the Bank of England yesterday.
Yeah, actually got personal. Britain now faces new rising inflation, flatlining growth and stagflation, with the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, warning Britain's bloated public sector is dragging down that economy.
I think it's fair to say that we have seen an increase in public sector employment. We haven't seen a commensurate increase in measured public sector output.
That comes after the Bank of England slashed its forecast for growth for 2025 in half to just 0.75 percentage point, with fears that the cost of living pressures are on the rise again. Inflation set to climb to 3.7% this year.
The bank said growth had been weaker than expected and raises questions over whether the Chancellor, that's Rachel Reeves, just in case you've forgotten, is representing everybody in Britain.
GB News' political editor Christopher Hope sat down with the Labour MP for Bassetlaw, Jo White, to discuss how Red Wall MPs are angered. And else.
There was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues, and my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the north, telling our story, because by telling a story you're actually attracting inward investment and you're attracting new businesses. So come to the north, please, Rachel. You are Leeds MP.
Correct.
Tell our story, and we have a good one, and where we want to invest and where we want to get the new skills. And I'll be clapping loudly from the sidelines.
Elsewhere in politics, we have a breaking news for you. The Energy Secretary and Net Zero Secretary, Ed Miliband, has dropped his opposition to building a third runway at Heathrow.
He had previously threatened to resign over the expansion in 2009, and he voted against the plan in 2018. But speaking this morning, he confirmed his support for the proposal and added that the government has asked Heathrow to come forward with their plans.
OK, joining us now in the studio is the wonderful GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, what's going on with Ed Miliband? He was vehemently against it, and now it's like, actually, the boss has said it's a good idea, so I'm going with it.
Well, I suspect what's going on with Ed Miliband is the fact that he has a very big job in the cabinet as energy, and net zero secretary, and they have collective responsibility. So we know, of course, that he was previously very opposed to a third runway at Heathrow. Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, still is very publicly, but if you're a member of the cabinet, you have to go along with the government's position. So he has said this morning he does support what the government is doing. He abides by collective responsibility.
Yeah, collective responsibility is obviously a very important philosophy. Would you say it's been made easier for him? Because there's no prospect of this runway being built during the course of this government. Many people might say there's no prospect of this runway being built. But there's going to be no pouring of concrete in the next 4.5 years.
Very true. And of course, what he's also said is that Heathrow has been invited to bring forward plans and that they will have to abide by very strict targets on the environment, on sustainability, on carbon, and so on and so forth. There's no guarantee at all, A, that it's ultimately going to happen, and even if it does happen, as you say, it's going to take probably decades, because for a start, they're going to have to put a big tunnel for the M25. It will be incredibly disruptive. And none of this, even if you support it and think that it's the right thing to do, of course, there's environmental concerns, but none of these big infrastructure plans that Rachel Reeves announced last week are going to help the government with their immediate problem, which is that they need growth. They said that they would get growth. This was going to fund public services, and there's precious little evidence of that happening. In fact, growth forecasts have been halved. We're now looking at a pretty flat economy and inflation ticking up. Two things going in the wrong direction.
You know what? I'm slightly fair, because what happened to principles, right? Here are my principles, but I have other principles if you don't like them. I mean, Rachel Reeves herself objected to Leeds Bradford being built, didn't she? Extended. Keir Starmer objected vociferously to the third runway being built. And sort of like Ed Miliband now, right, wants us all to freeze in our homes with green energy that we know is going to be very expensive for all of us because of we need to get to net zero. But a third runway is fine. Make that make sense?
Well, yeah, and I mean, Boris Johnson said he would lay down in front of the bulldozers, and then when it came to the vote, he mysteriously had to go, was it Afghanistan he had to go to?
Yeah.
But I think it's very tricky because the government, before they were in office, talked about £28 billion, for green investment. They see green technology, climate change, tackling that as an opportunity. And Ed Miliband has said that there is no conflict between economic growth and net zero. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of consistency, does there? Because on the one hand, they're now saying, let's go with Heathrow expansion and this, that and the other. But
I was just going to say, there's an even broader point here. I don't know whether you've read the article this week by Michael Gove in The Spectator, but what he's saying is there's great conflict within Labour, that people like Morgan McSweeney at Number 10 are saying we've got to get back onto the issues that matter, basically, to the red wall. And these are things like immigration, and they're things like the economy, of course. And in that context, net zero is not what these people are interested in. I mean, it raises the question, really, whether you think that Keir Starmer, whatever Miliband may have said now about Heathrow, whether Keir Starmer can go on with such a militant net zero advocate in his cabinet.
Well, we will see, but I think the point about the red wall is that, as Joe White flagged, they do really need to be worrying about huge chunks of voters that gave their vote to them back in the summer on the promises of change, on the promises of growth, on the promises of improved public services, and they need to deliver on that fast. There's not much evidence at the moment that they can, partly because some of the actions they've taken on the budget and so on seem to have had the opposite effect and actually depressing growth. And also a lot of what Rachel Reeves announced last week seems to be pretty much just focused on the south of England, very little for the north. And immigration, as you say, yeah, they're not going to set any targets. They say, look, we've seen where that led before. But I don't think many of the public really believe that they're going to get numbers down significantly. And you may say we're going to build 1.5 million more homes. But if you've got the numbers of people projected to be coming in, some of the things that Labour are announcing are not even going to touch the sides.
Thank you very much indeed, Catherine Forster. Our poll of the day, today we're asking, do you agree with the Red Wall MPs that there's a southern bias in government? The results so far are that 91% of you think that there is such a bias. We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure that you stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
Yeah, and for all our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, we're giving you 2 chances to win in our latest Great British giveaways, as we have 2 amazing prize bundles to be won. Each bundle contains a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store, and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Do you fancy your chances to be one of the 2 winners? Here are all the details
Get your hands on
that
this bundle.
you need.
Go for it. Good luck.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not 1, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5.
She told us she was shocked when he made a highly sexualised comment to her.
The TV chef, who's appeared on the likes of This Morning and Celebrity Juice, faces allegations which span a 12-year period, and he denies all of them.
We are now joined by the wonderful showbiz journalist Stephanie Tecci. Stephanie, thank you so much. Another day, another scandal involving a man of a certain age in a position of power in TV.
I'm not really surprised, Dawn. I think the alarm bells, and Michael, the alarm bells started ringing back in December when reports came out that ITV had wanted Gino to sign a morality course because the execs were concerned about his behaviour on set, his language on set, which he refused to sign, and eventually he was sidelined from his travel show Gordon, Gino and Fred, which stars Gordon Ramsay there. So from there I knew something was bubbling. ITV have been pretty smart these days, because usually the newspapers will lead such an investigation, but it was ITV this time round. They've spoken to dozens of women who have spoken of their experiences with Gino. Some have said that he's done crude sexual remarks on stage, on set. Also, others have said he's been aggressive, all which Gino denies. His legal team have come out and said he's a father, he's a husband. He finds these allegations deeply upsetting. Obviously, when we look at these kind of cases, they span 12 years. So, you know, for audience at home, for us, we think, why so long? Why didn't you talk about it at a time? In the investigation that ITV have put out, a lot of them said they were on freelance contracts, so they were quite scared to be talking about against a high and powerful figure. Obviously, now society, we're much more sensitive with these things, and we've got a landscape where people can talk about it, hence why now it's kind of strength in numbers again, in which we're seeing.
Stephanie, thank you very much. Now, in response to these claims, Gino D'Acampo's legal team said Mr D'Acampo categorically denies his allegations of inappropriate sexual behaviour, and a separate response from the ITV said that the broadcaster was not made aware of these original concerns in 2018, and went on to say ITV is completely committed to creating an environment where everyone is treated with respect and feels able to give of their best. We can categorically confirm that this is not the behaviour that will be tolerated by ITV.
Interesting things. OK, still to come. The King and Queen are set to visit the Vatican. We'll be hearing more about that next. This is GB News with Michael and Dawn. We'll see you soon.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Well, specialist from Woolly and Wallace Auction House, Alexandra Aguilar, joins me now. Alexandra, how lovely to see you. And I wonder whether you were going to bring the jewellery in. You're actually wearing the jewellery. So shall we begin with the bracelet?
Right, so it's a diamond line bracelet, as you can see. It's really a beautiful thing. It's made of 27 diamonds with a yellow tint, and they are mounted on yellow gold, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful piece. But there's more to it, and as you mentioned, it's the provenance. It comes from the collection of Elizabeth Taylor, really one of the queens of Hollywood, and it was given to her by Michael Jackson.
Have you any idea why Michael Jackson gave her such a magnificent gift?
They were very, very good friends. They were friends for over 20 years, and he knew her love for diamonds, for jewelry, and we know that they exchanged many presents, including this fantastic bracelet.
Would that have been made new at that time?
Yes, I believe so.
We're talking, what, about the 1970s or something like that?
Oh, maybe a little bit later.
Later 80s?
Yes, that's right. But what's particularly interesting about this one is all the 27 diamonds have the same colour. And it's very difficult to find stones with the same colour, with the same yellow tint. So it makes it particularly beautiful and particularly special.
Why do you think it will go for about £70,000?
It's... well, it is a beautiful piece. It's very wearable, as you can see, and there is the provenance is amazing. Jewelry from the collection of Elizabeth Taylor is very sought after, of course.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Their Majesties, the King and Queen, will host actor Stanley Tucci and the Italian ambassador at a formal dinner this evening at Highgrove in celebration of slow food and slow fashion.
It comes as new details emerge of the King and Queen's visit to Italy in early April 2025, when they will join Pope Francis in celebrating the 2025 Jubilee year and will carry out engagements in Rome and Ravenna.
Joining us in the studio is our royal correspondent Cameron Walker. What is slow food and what's it got to do with anything?
Well, it stems back to 1986 in Italy, where there were nationwide protests because there was outrage that a McDonald's fast food chain was going to be placed in one of the sacred squares in Rome at Piazza di Spagna. And slow food is the contradiction to that. So it's all about traditional Italian cuisine, using fresh ingredients, taking your time over the flavours, etc., rather than just bashing out a burger and some fries. That's the essence of it. So tonight at Highgrove, one of the King's private properties, he's hosting a black-tie dinner in honour of the upcoming state visit to Italy, with, as you said, the Italian ambassador to the UK, Inigo Lambertini, and Stanley Tucci, the Hollywood actor. I'm told that ingredients from Highgrove Garden is going to be used within the food and indeed the drinks as well. So it's all going to be Italian flavours. And of course, this is very much an example of the King's soft power, particularly with the bilateral relationships between the United Kingdom and Italy. Giorgia Meloni, of course, I'm sure the British government perhaps want to pal up to her a little bit. And of course, it's a fine balance for the British government at the moment, because are they going to be pally with the United States, with Trump, or Europe? And it looks like Europe is going to be first on the list. But of course, this would have been planned in my diary months in advance.
I mean, Georgia is a very controversial politician to some as well, isn't she? She's very right-wing. So, I mean, the King has to be very careful about getting involved in a political row here.
Well, the King always stays above politics, so he won't voice a political opinion, of course, but what he is an asset for the British government to shore up those relationships with our closest neighbours in Europe, and I suspect it's going to be one of many state visits the King's going to be taking part in. We are hearing that a state visit to the United States is very much on the table, but of course no dates have been set yet, and it's all up to the Foreign Office really, rather than Buckingham Palace.
Just strikes me as very bold that His Majesty is teaching the Italians anything about pasta, about food. But maybe spaghetti is an important strand of diplomacy.
Well, quite possibly, and the herbs from a Highgrove garden being used in the drinks which are being served at Highgrove tonight. So I suppose it is all about the culture, isn't it, of Italy, and perhaps buttering up the Italian ambassador ahead of the state visit in April, coinciding with their 20th wedding anniversary, the King and Queen's in April.
Cameron Walker, thank you very much indeed.
And that was terrible. That was probably your worst joke of the entire show, by the way.
Very, very bad joke.
gbnews.com/you'll say, if you think you've heard him say any worse joke today, I mean, there's a lot of competition for it, to be fair.
Right, Britain's Newsroom is coming up at 9:30. Ben Leo and Nana Kui are here to tell us all about it.
Still trying to work out the joke. Where was the joke? I missed it.
Strand of diplomacy. We're talking about spaghetti.
I've had this for hours.
You have to be quite quick. Yes.
Right, anyway, no, we've
Yes,
got... Well, we're quite interesting, really. Obviously, Rachel Reeves, the things that she's proposing, stagflation is on the way. That is when you have high inflation, low economic growth and unemployment rising. So, unfortunately, all the measures that she appears to have put forward have created that scenario. Growth has come down to 0.75%, 0.75%, if only it was. And so we'll be talking about her, really, and whether perhaps she should go.
And apparently, if you didn't know, Lego, the child's toy, is anti-LGBT. That's according to campaigners.
Go on, explain it, because we've had it explained on our programme before. We want you to go through the same nightmare of embarrassment.
So what is it, Nana? It's because
the connectors are seen as almost male and female. So the way they interconnect then shows that male and female appears to be the norm. So then this kind of ostracises people who are not, in a sense, normal, because Lego is saying the normal is male and female.
Nana, you are a diplomat. You are amazing. You explain that so well.
Plumbing connections.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's in engineering everywhere. Exactly. I don't know why this...
Well, yeah, of course, it's engineering, isn't it?
It's pure...
Yeah.
And in one more very quick story of madness, the Royal Navy is allowing officers and sailors to wear saris as part of an all-inclusive diversity policy.
Well, they've let them wear kilts for a long time. That is all from us. As you know, up next is Britain's Newsroom with Ben and Nana, so stay tuned for them. I really
thank you for watching. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your company. And let's see you out with the weather before Nana and Ben keep you company for the rest of the morning.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty chilly one out there today. A much duller day for many of us compared to the sunshine we had yesterday, and a pretty noticeable and brisk breeze blowing across the south. Now, that is also throwing in some showers, and it's cold enough for those showers to have a wintry flavour about them. A little bit of sleet here and there, some snow possible over the hills. The Chilterns, for example, may see a few flakes, but generally, for most of us, just cold rain. Further north, though, it's generally a dry day, and certainly in western Scotland, another cracking day here. Light winds, plenty of sunshine. Temperature 6 or